All right, did that forum post? Welcome to ZBrush for concept and iteration. All right, we're up and running. Sorry, I had to do some last minute. I guess my CGMA course is starting another round, so I got to make some posts about welcome and video breakdown. Oops, damn, I forgot to update that. Let me edit that real quick. Bear with me, everybody. So I guess the good news is this, I have a CG Master Academy course and it's 6 units, but the first unit, week 0, is a kind of a prerequisite, and it is 5 hours and 50 minutes, 53 videos long, and I'm going to be posting that on YouTube as soon as I can. So that is 53 videos, 5 hours and 50 minutes, and save. Okay. I think we're all set up here. We have where we left off. And so last time, just as a recap, let's scroll up a little bit. We went over high-res face sculpting. We went over this mirror, local axis and local mirrored axis, and then down the mirrored axis. Hey, thanks for showing up. And then we went over, okay, so this is our concept sketch, so just doing high-res updated clothing, and then here's the final. So we went over like high-res sculpting and taking our concept sketch and updating it with all the new features and stuff. Like the backpack or this vest here would just be like masking and then Z-remeshing and then modeling it out, putting we can maybe do a little bit of that. Pouches, I can break down pouches for you pretty quickly, or even better, I think we went over this as well. You would think I would remember since we just did it, but you'd think wrong. But if you go to my YouTube channel and you type in pouch, there is accessory pack creation that might be useful to you. This is a little bit dated. And then this one is a mag pouch blockout. Oh, that you can do, that's a blockout though. There is, you just basically box model it, and in that case it would be something like, blocking it out, just kind of getting your shapes in there. And then if you go to my profile here, and you go to the boot tutorial, it's very much the same thing. So this boot tutorial is like 18 videos long, and it's just essentially a way to kind of box model a pouch and bridge things. So you know what, we can do that real quick too. So let's do some of this, like say we're going to be updating this clothing a little bit here, or refining what the sketch was. Let me see if I have a sketch of her actually that's a little bit older. Yep, streaming summit characters. We also talked about the how we made, when we were talking about local symmetry and mirrored symmetry, just putting those things together. Let me see, is there a really old one? Hold on, let me go back in time just a bit. Fly right. Version 2. Yeah, and this is still, everything's just kind of sculpted. Nothing's really been updated. I don't have any of her backpack stuff. But okay, let's say we did want to do something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete her out of here. And really quickly, we'll walk through a couple of techniques. So let's go to load tool here. I'm just going to grab my streaming. What's her name? Her name is ZBrush female, high res. I'm going to borrow this base body. Good enough. So delete other. Whoops. Delete other. There we go. So we can start with this base body here. So, if we did want to make a vest, it would be something like holding down control, going over here. Oh, you know what? I need to turn on my Discord. Oh, you know what? I'm also going to disconnect that. Cool. Thanks for showing up, everybody. And thanks for the kind words. Nefentes06. Glad the videos are helping out. It always amazes me that you guys choose to watch me out of everything you could be watching right now. It means a lot to me that people show up for this, because I can certainly be boring sometimes. And by sometimes I mean almost exclusively boring. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a vest on this person here. And so I've disconnected from that VPN. I'm going to go ahead and close this window down. Sorry, I'm a little bit disorganized. I got caught up in some other administrative work that I realized I needed to do. Turn on, turn on, turn on. There we go. Okay, so we've got her here. So let's make a quick vest. So just like we were doing before. Oh yeah, I was going to open Discord. I'm trying to be better about actually using this. All right, I'll let that load up. So I'm going to hold down Control. We're going to mask lasso, and I'm going to go through here. And she's going to be wearing a vest. It'll probably be something like this, and it'll go up around her neck. And then we'll hold down Control, and we'll go to Mask Pin, and we'll go ahead and close that mask up. And you'll notice, you know, I let ZBrush do a lot of work for me. I don't really sweat trying to go through here and topologize a lot, but we will talk a little bit about like the Topology Brush, and that'll get you some quick results as well. So if I go to my Discord here, so I do have a live stream chat. I can send you guys to this here. Let's see. Escape, live stream chat, create instant invite. I'm slowly learning how to do this. There you go. If you want to join that live stream chat, feel free. Okay. So, yeah, it is early, and today was really hard to get up. Today was one of those days where I was like, oh my god, can I do this? John asks, are you still giving strict poly budgets on your characters like Legacy days? Not so much if you're doing stuff for console or PC with not ridiculous specs, but yeah, if you're working on like VR or mobile, then absolutely, it can get very, very tricky still. You're pulling on old tricks from like PS2 days to get that stuff done, so yeah, it's still a thing. And also, you generally, I mean, you can behave a little unoptimized, and you don't have to sweat it as much. But really, the more optimized you can work, the less you have to worry about later on, because your budget is always one of those things where you want to stay low. You don't want to overshoot and then have to be like, okay, let's reauthor everything we've made up to this point because something we didn't anticipate has gone wrong. So what I'm going to do is duplicate her off. I'm going to hit Control W, which is going to make it all one polygroup. Or what I like to do too, so we duplicated her off. I'm going to delete lower, and we're going to go over here to our edge loop and do an edge loop mask border, and that's going to allow us to get a little slice through there. If you didn't do that, what I'd have to do, let's go ahead and do a geometry modified topology delete hidden. You can go down here to like masking and then do a mask border. Mask by features border, and you can like grow that mask if you want to, and Control tap to invert that mask, and then you can go over here to your deformation menu and do like a polish by features or something, and then smooth that out. Essentially what I'm doing is trying to get rid of that alias stepping so that ZRemesher doesn't look at that and try to pick that up. So now that I've got that shape, and actually even before I did that, what I might do is do a little bit of concept sculpting. So it's like, okay, this isn't going to be a form-fitting vest by any means, so I can go through here and I can take the clay brush and I can kind of pull this out just a little bit here so I don't have to do it later, and ZRemesher will just follow along with this. I'm going to switch over here to Smooth Stronger just a bit because I am working on a little bit higher resolution, and then yeah, down her back isn't going to be stuck to her spine or anything like that. So you can go through here. You don't have to inflate that much. That we can take care of in Zmodeler in a minute, but we're just going to go through here, kind of pull that out just a tad. Okay, so Control tap to invert that. Let's go back down here to geometry, delete lower. What are we looking for here? Edge of the mouse border. Control Shift tap to get rid of that. Geometry modified topology, delete hidden. Under ZRemesher, let's just do a half, adaptive size down to 0, ZRemesh. We do have X symmetry turned on, I believe, so it should be symmetrical. And you only have to wait for it to go through here once. We're going from 100,000 polys down, or points down to something reasonable, 50,000. It's still pretty high though, so I'm just going to keep hitting half. And it'll go faster each time. You can do a projectile back, but since we want this off of her body a little bit, I'm going to skip that part. And there we go. That's a nice enough vest. So now we can go through here and we can kind of help zero mesh her out a little bit. We can even out some of these edges here. And because when we did the shirt in the first day, and you guys might have missed the first day, I'm not even sure if they have it posted yet. Let's take a look. No, they don't. So on the Pavlovich workshop here on ZBrush, I can link you guys to that. This was the first day. On Tuesday, I went over the very, very first thing. I have it recorded as well, so that's going to go on my playlist on YouTube, but it's not on my YouTube. So episode 48, whenever they post it, on my YouTube channel for the last Wednesday, Thursday, last 2 days. If you go here, and it should just be in the videos section, uploads. So here's the first, so here's Wednesdays, here's Thursdays, and we're recording Fridays right now. And then I'll make a playlist for you guys this weekend. I mean, I can, if it gets really boring, I'll start singing. My playlist on my phone stopped at about 1999. Coincidentally, the same year I graduated high school, so might be going back a little bit. Hey, Danny, thanks for showing up. Yes. Let's machine gun this thing out. So we got this thing here, and what we're going to do is we have our vest shape. So it's pretty easy. I didn't have to do too much modeling, right? So I'm going to go through here, and because let's do Q mesh, and if you get any tight spots on here, it might be better to do an extrude polygroup all, so that when you're Q meshing, it is a feature of Q mesh. So if we extrude this, you can see we can extrude out, and then if we want to make it, so right now it's sitting on her body. If you did want it to go in a little bit, you can just start extruding in or Q meshing in, hold down shift, and just pull along those surface normals. The reason why I avoid Q mesh in some situations, if you do a Q mesh and you do a single poly, and then you do a Q mesh right next to it, it'll snap those polygons together. It's a cool feature, and you can also snap through and get rid of these polygons. So it's a really, really cool way to model. We'll get to that in a second when we get to the drone. But when you're just extruding thickness, sometimes it can like grab things you don't necessarily want. So here's a vest here, and if you want to make this vest a little bit fancier, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can hover over this, you can do an inset polygroup all region, and you can inset this, and then you can go through here and like Q mesh polygroup all, and Q mesh this down, give yourself a little ring. That method can sometimes give you triangles. In this case, I think we're in good shape as far as just like giving you thickness, and if you wanted to do like crease level here, maybe crease PG, dynamic, crease level of 3, smooth it over 4. You got a little vest going. Of course, you're going to want to sculpt wrinkles and stuff. But instead of doing it that method, sometimes what I'll do is I'll do a Q mesh polygroup all on these ones here, just to pull out thickness this way. And then I can pull out thickness this way. It's going on either side. So you can also do polygroup island, and you can say pull this one out. And then if you want to do this one as well, just tap it, and it'll give you the same value. This one avoids triangles a little bit better, depending on your situation. So you can do that. Now, of course, this is just the beginning of this vest. You're going to want to, again, you can crease, and then you can turn on dynamic if you want to preview it. But of course, since this is organic and cloth, we're going to skip turning on dynamic, and we're just going to hit D to subdivide or Control D to subdivide. So now we can go through here, and we can start, sculpting in our primary and secondary forms. And of course, cloth generally isn't symmetrical, so maybe avoid having symmetry on. But since I'm so very, very lazy, we're just going to keep symmetry on. Except back here. You know what? We'll break symmetry back here. And that's another thing too, is you can work with symmetry on or symmetry off. You can have X symmetry on for like on the sides where you won't see it, or you want to keep that on a bake that's going to be the same, and then break symmetry on the front and on the back, or anything you want to do like that. Now on top of here, what you may want to do is like molly stitches, so that you can just kind of place it on here. You can make an insert mesh brush that'll do molly for you. Things like molly and straps, I tend to just use Topology Brush for. It's not that hard to kind of get it on there. It gives me a little bit more control. So the problem with that is if I go to BTO and I try to like draw out molly, it's going to be like, hey, it's got subdivision levels. You can't do that. So what you need to do is either find a subtool that doesn't, or what I usually have is a null that I have at the top of my ZBrush file. So if I go to save this here, and I want to save this as test toast. When I save a file, that first subtool is going to be renamed. So when I go start renaming these things for baking purposes, I don't want to have my file name overriding my bake name. So I'll just put a null node in here. And the cool thing about having a null node is, when I scale this down, go into transparency mode, I can just hide that inside. This is just a it's just a geometry piece of geometry sitting there with no subdivision history. So if I have that active and then go to BTO, I can now go through here and I can put on some molly stitching or some straps. So let's start with a strap first because that's easier. Let's say we want to put a strap across her chest right here. If you want to do it in symmetry, tap X. Since your null node's right in the middle, you can have symmetry on. When I'm using the topology brush, symmetry kind of throws me for a loop. You know, I kind of have issues with the midline, so what I'll end up doing is, even if it's symmetrical, I'll have symmetry out by tapping X, and then it's like, okay, I want to strap across here. I'm going to put a strap across here, and then I'll go just slightly over that midline, and then I'll just start drawing these lines out. This is the topology brush. This might be older than ZBrush 4R8. I'm not sure if I have video. I mean, I do have videos on this. Just do topology brush on my YouTube channel. You can find this stuff, or anywhere on the internet. Anybody will have this. When you draw your topology, wherever you cross over these lines, it'll make a new mesh. If you hold down Alt and drag, it'll clean that mesh up for you. You can continue lines off of these ones and continue to draw. You can even make triangles if you want to. Triangles if you want to. What I found, what helps, and you'll notice how I did this one, is overshooting and also making your brush size a little bit bigger than you think it should be. If you overshoot and just draw over, and you don't have to be perfect, like you can make squiggly lines, and it's just that point and that point that gets calculated. All these squigglies don't really matter unless you come across here and then, you know, start dividing up your topology, and then it starts mattering. So go through here, make your lines. Anything else with the topology brush that's important? Yeah, probably, but we're going quick here. Again, we're machine gunning this, so I'm going to hold down Alt and just clean this up a little bit. If I tap, it's going to take my brush size into account for how thick it is. So I can hold down Control or do Control Z, make my brush size smaller, and tap that and tap off, and there we go. Now this is really easy to change the thickness, but also remember if I go into solo mode, when I'm doing topology brush, it's masking this. It's like doing an insert mesh. So it masks my original mesh here, and then it lets me draw this. So what I'm going to do is under Subtool, I can do Split Unmask Points. That'll make me able to copy this. I'm going to hold down Shift, bent arrow, shoot it down to the bottom, turn off Solo, and now I've got my strap here. Now I want it symmetrical, so let's go in our Zmodeler Brush BZM, hover over an edge, insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, let's get rid of that one, because what I'm going to do is a mirror and weld. Now if I do a mirror and weld now, it's going to mirror -X, let's turn on our floor, -X to +X, so it took the stumpy side and mirrored it, not what I wanted. So what you need to do is go into deformation, mirror across the X, and then mirror and weld across the X, and then turn on X for X symmetry, and you're good to go. Now you can see mirror and weld really close together, really nice. It's in my custom menu up here, and I have it assigned to a hotkey, so it's like a marking menu. You want more info on that? That is Intro to ZBrush Part 1 and Part 2 in my playlists. I'm sorry, Intro to ZBrush Part 2 in my playlist here. We'll get you that. Yeah. So that'll get you your custom playlists and hotkeys and stuff like that. And the reason why is because you'd have to go down here to deformation and do a mirror, and then go up here to geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld in order to do these two operations, which I do all the time. See how they're flashing on and off over there? So use your hotkeys and stuff. So we can go to Uncrease All here. We can straighten this out a little bit. You can be fancier with your straightening if you want them exactly straight. You can go into your floor here, and you can like mask these top points here. You can hold down Alt and tap a single point. We have X symmetry turned on. Let's go ahead and reset this. You can kind of match this here, and then you can just do like a Z scale to make those flat, but we're not going to worry too much about that. Also, Topology Brush. Oh, that's one thing I forgot to mention. So with this Topology Brush, it doesn't have subdivision. Let's do another BTO. If you wanted to go like across, like from her arm to her body, Topology Brush probably isn't the best way to do it because it is going to conform to the body. Also, if you decide to go, hey, you know what? I mean, I guess you could, but as soon as you start drawing another line, it's going to suck in. So the Topology Brush is only going to connect dots, and it's going to disregard the rest of the line. So if you want more resolution, you have to add resolution to get, you know, inside there. If you don't, then just ignore it and just tap off, and then there's your geometry. Alternatively, I would probably use Z-spheres topology to do this type of stuff, but I'll leave that up to you. So we got a strap here, and I don't know why I put a strap like this, but let's say it goes across her body and then it loops over and then it puts a little nubbin there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this out just a little bit. And so we want these to roll back over. So I've got this here. I'm going to go into Q Mesh, a single poly, and we're just going to hold down Control and pop off a copy of this thing, and then continue to Q Mesh. Now if I want these to be thinner, all I got to do is Q Mesh, Polygroup Island, and then again hold down Shift and push along that surface normal. And if I want to move this back, I can hold down Shift to push along that surface normal, and then same thing here. And then if I want to loop these together, I'm going to say, let's just do delete a single poly, bam, bam. And then if you want to see both sides, I like to turn on double temporarily. So go down here, display properties, turn on double. Make sure you turn that back off. It'll throw you for a loop sometimes. We're going to go to bridge, to holes. We'll keep it on spline. There's a lot of really cool bridge options in there, but just interactive elevation and spline is fine. If we want to push these back, we can hit W to go into gizmo mode, hold down Control, and as you drag along your object, it'll auto mask for you. So now you can just go in here with your move brush, or you can go into your move brush, B, M, you can move topological, or you can go into your move brush, and then under auto masking, you can say topological, pull that range down, and then you can just move these points separately. So a lot of different ways to skin that cat. Now at this point, you can go in here. I'm going to do, if you do Crease Polygroup, you got a lot of polygroups going on here. If you want to clean this up a little bit, you can hit Control W. You can try doing a group by normals, but you may get some polygroups in here that you got to kind of play with that number a little bit. What I'll do is hold down Control Shift, say Control W, all one polygroup. Control Shift, select Lasso, and that's got a feature in it where it'll grab a single edge ring. So if you do select lasso on an edge, it'll grab the whole thing. So now on this one, we can do auto groups, and then Control Shift drag, Control W, and now we have inside and outside. Wait, it should be, hold on. Let's do this also. Oh, that's another thing too. So if we hit D for dynamic subdivision, that gives us our preview. Deep. Let's see, geometry, dynamic subdivisions. So we turn on dynamic, this gives us a preview. If we go through here to our crease menu, which I use all the time in conjunction with dynamic subdivision, we'll say hit crease, and that'll go through and increase our object based on an angle tolerance. If we increase that, we would do uncrease all, and then crease again, we can uncrease that one. And this gives pretty good representation. I like to do a crease level of usually like 3, smooth subdiv of 4, and that'll put in a little built-in bevel. It's not real subdivision, so I can always do Shift D, and I can hop back out, and I can go through here and I can add more geometry. So if I hit D, this gives me my preview, and let's say, you know what, I want this to be not creased up here. So I'm going to hover over this. We have X symmetry turned on, so I'm going to hover over this edge, and we'll say crease, edge, hold down Alt, and we'll uncrease these two. And get this little round thing. And it's like, okay, that's pretty round, but I don't want it that round. Well, you still have control in here where you can go hover over an edge, insert single edge loop, and you can just put in a control edge, and you can kind of tighten these corners up a little bit on both sides. Then you hit Shift D. Also, if you wanted to, you could also like say polygroup, polyloop, and you can polygroup these things, and then you can do like an extrude, polygroup all, and you can make thickness. Or what I would probably do in this case, like we did with the vest, I'd probably take these ones here and do extrude, polygroup all, and then do another extrude here, or maybe a polygroup island, and give it some thickness here if you wanted to put like a little ridge around it or something. And you can do it on this side as well. So I'll leave that up to you, but simple strap, and then of course you can go to like brush, insert. Let's do clothing. Where's the clothing at? Clothing. M, snap assembly, throw that in there, stick it back in there. You can also use the depth setting on your brush if you don't want to do that every time, but now if you're going to do, again, scaling across an axis, turn on local LSIM so you can scale locally. And now you've got a little brush assembly here. And now since this is clothing, let's go ahead and do another split on mask points. That'll split that little button assembly down. And then on this one here, I'm going to do Shift D to turn off dynamic. And we'll hit Control D, and then we'll do an uncrease all, and then Control D. And now we've got a little bevel. We can hit Control D again. And then now we can actually have something to like sculpt across here. You go through here and you can like, I don't know, whatever sculpting you want to do. Now if you want to sculpt through here, you can do transparency with ghost on, and that'll allow you to kind of sculpt through this object. You can build up around it here. I don't know, however you want to do that. So you got straps in there. Cool. Let's see, and if I miss anything, I apologize. Sometimes these things go, um, sometimes these things go, the comments come in fast and furious, so I gotta kind of scroll through quick. But right, nice, nice, nice. So, Michael Powers, could you explain how to make in ZBrush complex ornaments? Maybe we might get into that. That might have to be a stream for another day, since I am trying to get through this Summit demo. But there's a couple different ways you could do that. Probably with surface noise and converting that surface noise to geometry through BPR rendering would be the way I would do it off the top of my head, or maybe masking, or maybe just using insert mesh brushes to do that. Do you perform some warm-up modeling before doing projection projects? If so, what would you suggest to warm up with? Pick a random object from my house and model it. That's actually a really good idea. I don't, but it might be nice, or it's actually a good exercise to just pick something and then problem solve with it. There's objects, I've been doing this a while, and there's still objects where I can model this, and I'll go through it and I'll be like, oh, when you're done doing it, you'll learn so much about what not to do sometimes. It's really valuable. So yeah, that's a good warm-up project. And I think that's a good thing to do, just like you said, just in general, day-to-day task, or do it once every couple days, just to kind of keep you problem solving and learning and experimenting and experiencing stuff and all that good stuff. So we got a vest, we got a strap. Now that molly is kind of the same basic thing. We can use any of these. I'll go back to our original here. We'll go to BTO, and we want to put like a molly strap on here. We'll just go through here and then pop this off. Let's go ahead and say split unmask points, and then I'll go ahead and split it down. Now, of course, we want this a lot thinner than it is, so we can go through here and we can say extrude, polygroup island, and then we'll just make this thinner. Now, with molly, what you're going to want to probably do is go through here, and we're going to say bevel edge loop complete, and it's going to be like sticky here, and we'll just go through here also, and we'll do like an insert single edge loop, or even better, this will be better. We'll go to, actually, before we do this, let's make it way thinner from this side. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So we're going to go through here. We'll do Q mesh a single poly. And then here, we're going to do bevel edge loop complete, because this is where it's going to be like stitched to the object. And you can just, once you do it once, you can just go through here. And you can see, boy, did I ever do a bad job. Like I was like, blah, 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 blah. Do a better job than me. I'm just kind of going through this quick, but you guys get the idea. Now, there's a couple different ways you can go about this. If you want to get fancy, I generally don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say bevel here. Oops. So we put in a little bevel here, and I'm going to put another one on either side, here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here. And I'm going to want to move. Oh, we've got to do this side too. So we'll just go ahead and say Q mesh a poly, and then we'll do a quick little bevel there. So essentially what I want to do is move these faces out, and also maybe give them a little bit of a bend. You could bridge these and bend it outwards if you want to. If you want to delete these and bridge these two holes, I think we'll be okay if we just do something like insert single edge loop. And in fact, if you do insert multiple edge loops and just do one, it'll snap right down the middle. So you can do that. And then I'll just go through here and we'll do a bevel. We'll give it like 3. And now that I have this, I can go through here. I can say mask polygroup island, and we go here. I want to mask all of these. And if it is curved, you can just mask these one by one, but I'm just going to do them all at once. Hit W, and I'm just going to pull these out here. So we can kind of do that kind of thing, and then now those are going to be stuck. And you can hit Control W, and you can group these by normals if you want to, or crease them. You can keep these creased and these tops creased and subdivide it like that, but essentially what you're looking for is just a kind of a piece of molly strap that you can go through. Now the stitches, again, if you go back through the older videos when we went into Painter, I would do the stitches in Painter probably. You can do insert mesh brush stitches, but boy, it gets destructive and a little bit harder to control later on in the production pipeline. But if it is just a high-res model for like 3D printing, then by all means, do your stitching in here. So that's enough on that, I think. Yeah, and so like the pouches and stuff too. Let's go out of edit mode. Let's make a, oops, Control N, grab Polymesh 3D, go into edit mode. And we're going to go down here to initialize. We'll do a Q cube. I'm going to do a quick deformation unify. And for this stuff, you know, this can be our start of our pouch here. I'm going to go ahead and pop this top off. And for real, you know, Alt tap these, and then we can like delete polygroup all. So if the pouch is constructed with like a back piece that's separate, I can just isolate this piece off. Let's go ahead and do a quick group by normals. I'm going to take this piece off, and we're going to go ahead and do a split hidden. And then on these side panels here, this cloth is usually together, so I'm going to take both of these. If you do a polygroup, boom, both of these, we can go ahead and split those off. And now we got our side panels. So even here, we can start doing this Q-mesh, polygroup all. We can pull this out. I can alt-tap these ones. Do we have X symmetry turned on? Let's do that. And then I can hold down Shift, Q-mesh, polygroup all. Q-mesh, polygroup all. Let's go delete hidden. Why are you doing this to me? Polygroup all only. When you alt mark something, that should be your polygroup. I don't know. Oh, that was a weird bug. Okay, so we can Q-mesh polygroup all, hold down Shift, and we can pull this out further. And actually, probably these will be pulled out further too. And then on this one here, it would be something like, and then you'd have a little flap that actually goes in the back here. So you would take this one, and you can Q-mesh out some thickness here, but this one I'm going to do Q-mesh all polygons. We'll get some thickness. And then this side strap here, let's go ahead and make this all in polygroup, hit X symmetry, and we'll just go ahead and pull this out. So we have our panel thickness, these ones. We can go ahead and just kind of move in a little bit, and then this one wraps around. And then if we want a flap that goes up and over, we can borrow some from this. So I'm going to take this one here, we're going to duplicate it off. I'm going to alt mark. Let's go into solo mode. I'm going to alt mark these ones here, isolate them, delete hidden, and hold on. Let's turn on double real quick. Let's do an auto groups and just get rid of that back one there. Delete hidden. Turn double back on. Or off. So now we're going to Q-mesh all polygons, but first we can go ahead and say, you know what, I want this to be a little shorter, a little smaller this way maybe, because this again is going to be the cloth that goes over the top here. So now we'll do a Q-mesh all polygons, and then I'm going to take this one, control drag out a copy, and this one, the cloth doesn't necessarily have to go all the way in, so I can take these two down here, Q-mesh, polygroup all, just pull those back. And we could even shorten this up just a tiny bit here. So anyway, we got that. Now if we want to bridge these two, we can go up here. We can say delete, single poly, single poly. I'm going to turn double back on temporarily so I can see both sides. And then we'll go ahead and just bridge these two holes together. Now if you do a spline, it's going to do this, which may be what you're looking for. But also remember, you also have like round corners in here you can kind of play with. Like so. So you can kind of see if that works a little bit better for you, or small round corners, tight round corners, arcs and lines. Arc circle is sometimes useful for not necessarily this, but doing some stuff. But I mean, this is fine. There's nothing wrong with this. So this can be our ammo pack here. And this is the start of it. Now, of course, it's a lot of box modeling, but what this does is allow me to maintain a little bit of control. Back here, you can do insert mesh brushes or whatever. You can also duplicate this off and go, let's go ahead and go insert single edge loop here, and then we'll go ahead and bevel edge loop complete here. I'm going to take these, oops, let's go into solo mode. Take these two here, and we'll go ahead and delete hidden. And then I'm going to go ahead and shrink them up a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and say Q-mesh polygroup all here. And then, you know, eventually, and these will be little things that can go tuck into the molly and have little buttons in here. So I'm a little bit premature with this, but again, we're just going fast. Put a little snap assembly back here, whatever. So now we're ready to just kind of go through and subdivide. If you want to preview, of course, you can run a crease tolerance, crease level of 3, smooth subdiv of 4, or whatever. and that'll give you a preview, but of course you're going to want to sculpt on this. So at this point you can just apply your dynamic, and then you have, you know, resolution in here, so you can step down, like say subdivision level 4, and you can go through here and like just sculpt, you know, the wrinkles you want to have. And if you are going to be doing a lot of wrinkles and then putting little details on it, I would say, for this one, I'm just going to try to smooth subdivide. Oh, also, you're probably going to want to even this geometry out. I should have said that first. Insert single edge, pull down Alt. Go in here and just manually kind of even this topology out a little bit. It'll help you in the long run. Same thing with this one. You don't want big squares here and small squares there. That's a bad idea. Let's do this. We'll even this geometry out. We'll say insert multiple edge loops, hold down Alt to get rid of these first, and then we can divide this one up. And ideally you want it going down the middle, so when you do a mirror and weld it doesn't do that, but I don't really care that much. And then we'll do this, and then we'll hit Control W, and you can always, remember, you can always go back in and group by normals. It's not a big deal, and then do a quick mirror and weld so it's the same polygroup on both sides. And now when you sculpt, it'll be a lot better. So now on this side, again, turn off smooth subdivide, divide, turn it back on, divide, whatever, and then we can go through here and we can like start sculpting. If you want to drop down, you can drop down and pinch these in, whatever you want to do. Now on top of here, let's say we wanted to put a little cloth little cover on this thing. You can still borrow this geometry here. What we can do is we can say duplicate this off. If you go down to like subdivision level 2 and then delete higher, and then we grab these pieces here, and then we go delete hidden, or I'm sorry, let's delete lower as well. We'll go to delete hidden. Now you can have like a little cloth cover. Bridging this is kind of a pain, so what I like to do sometimes is just do a close holes and let it do the heavy lifting for me. And then I'll just go through here and I can hold down Alt. Now that's going to work a little bit better if you don't have this. We'll insert single edge loop, and then we'll do a close holes. And I can just go through here really quickly. Let's do a quick mirror and weld, and then we'll do delete edge, and let's go through and delete all these things. So now the cool thing about this is we'll have our little cloth cover. It goes along the top here. And if you wanted to put that edge back in here, I'd go to like Insert, Multiple Edge Loops, Interactive Elevation. So you can put in one right down the middle, and you can also pull out a little bit and kind of give it a little thickness there. And then through here, we can also do Q Mesh, All Polygons, and then just hold down Shift and kind of inflate it. So you get a little cloth cover that kind of follows your folds a little bit maybe. And then you can go like, yeah, BTO. We don't have X symmetry turned on, so you put a little strap in here. You can tap off, and you can say split on mass points, mirror, mirror and weld, and clean this up, and put a little whatever snap assembly on here. So a lot of sculpting, splitting these things off, all that good stuff. So blah 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 blah. Split on mass points. And we got a little pouch going. We're going to do ZBrush plugins and things in release. The ZBrush plugin's already out, so if you go to ZBrush plugins and go to the download center, right at the top here you have Z color, metal quotes, and intersection masker. As far as the other stuff, I'm not sure. And you show us your workflow over Topo from Marvelous. Yeah, we got you covered right here. Go to my playlist, and then this Marvelous and ZBrush Quickstart. ZProject and ZRemesh is the video you're going to watch, or want to watch. That's how I do all my Marvelous Designer retoupe. Bertram, hey, how's it going? You said you quickly go over the process of taking a rock wall thing like the one I liked you to game res. Yeah, so this one, let's take a little side trip here. So I'm going to just grab a quick plane. Make Polymesh 3D. Let's go to our comma key. We're going to go to Insert, Brush. I think in here, beta tester brushes, scales, no. IMM, there we go. And then there's like bricks and claws in here. So I'm going to take these bricks. One thing you can do with these bricks is you can drag them out and you can have a brick. I'm also going to go down here to our modifiers, and I'm going to say multi-mesh selector 3. So as I'm dragging these out, it's just going to give me a random brick every single time. You can also hold down Control and it'll snap to your brush size, so you can make them all somewhat consistent. So we'll just make a quick brick wall. And again, I'm not much of an environment artist. It's going to really show as I do this, but let's say this is our brick wall here. So I can do is I can isolate this, invert that, delete hidden. So we've got our brick wall and we want to game res this thing. Game resing brick is usually okay as far as like just decimating it. You don't need like quad topology for things that aren't going to animate, but you might run into some problems here, especially you know, wanting these things to kind of not have a bunch of weird holes in them. Like this isn't really realistic. That rock is kind of floating in space. So first go through here and see if you can't. You can also hit W and Control Tap, and that'll just give you a way to just isolate these things really quickly. So that's our first step here. So now if I take this and I, you know, say this is my high res, and I duplicate this off and I want to make a game res. So what I'm going to do is to make an envelope for these, I can go through here and I can do a Dynamesh. And depending on the resolution, that'll make a nice envelope. It'll voxelize these pieces together, and now you can go ahead and decimate this down. And that's just going to be in your Z plugins, decimation master, preprocess, and then decimate. Now, if you decimate this right now, see that nasty geometry right there? It's just going to leave it. So that's something you want to be really careful about, and it will give you non-manifold geometry for days in those little weird areas. To kind of avoid that, one thing you can also do is you can go down here to remesh, and it's not symmetrical, so we're just going to remesh this. And we go out of solo mode, you're going to see it just gave us this remesh blanket over it. Much, much cleaner. And now with just these two showing, we can go through here and we can do project all. And even this remesh here, you can subdivide it and you can project all. If you're getting these little errors here, you can go into BZP, that's our Z project brush, turn off RGB, and then you can hold down you can just Z project back. You can hold down Alt if you want to Z project up towards you, and you can just go through here and kind of push these polygons where they need to go. And that's just a way to kind of ensure that you don't have any weird twisted little holes. Now it is camera based, so make sure you are moving your camera around and getting these things pushed back. So that'll give you a very clean envelope, and then from that point you can either decimate this, or you can even, if you Dynamesh this, you're going to get a better result. We can even Dynamesh this at a higher resolution. Now, the lower the resolution, the more it's going to fill little holes and stick big areas together. The lower the resolution, the lower the resolution, the more it's going to do that. The higher the resolution, the less it's going to do that. So you kind of just play a balance of getting all your forms in there. And at this point, it should be pretty clean. And then it's just a matter of Z plugin, preprocess current. And then Z plugin, let's decimate this down to like 5K polys. And if that doesn't look good, or you want it lower or higher, since you've already pre-processed, you can use these custom ones down here, or presets and then custom ones down here. You can drop this down to 1 and decimate and see how it looks, or you can go to like 10 and decimate, see how it looks. So you don't have to pre-process every time. And that'll give you a little bit of a cleaner, more controllable geometry. Now all these errors out here is stuff you'd have to clean up, but I'll leave that up to you. And now UVing this, you can use UV master and then just say, I mean, you want to work on a clone ideally, no symmetry, just unwrap and then flatten. There you go. There's some UVs. A workflow for a full character retopo. If nobody's breathing over my shoulder, I do ZBrush and then a cleanup. Let's see if I can go to. Yeah, ZRemesh, Z-Sphere topology cleanup. Watch that one. That's how I would do it if no one's breathing over my shoulder. Eyeball my geometry too closely. If they are, then it's just manual retopology. So it'd be Z-Sphere topology, Topo Gun, Maya, Bodo, Max, 3D coat, however you want to do it. Is there anything in Zmodeler that's analogous for the edge extrusion and other 3D packages? Yeah, that is, I mean, the short answer is no, but if we go to Make Polymesh 3D here, if you are, let's see, reconstruct. So we got a simple plane here. We'll go ahead and delete higher, and we'll say QMesh Polygroup all. So if I want to, yeah, if I want to extrude just an edge, I want to work really thin. Number one, working thin in ZBrush, depending on the operations you want to run, can be a bad idea, like Dynamesh and stuff. But you would have an expectation of like being able to extrude an edge, but this extrude goes like this. How I would work with this mesh is just give you a thin kind of mesh here and then use this as my extrude. And the cool thing about this extrude is you can go through here and you can like just pull things through. So if you don't like stuff, you can just get rid of it. And then if you want to extrude like say all these ones here, I'll just do a group by normals and then just do a Q mesh polygroup all. Now I can extrude all these edges, and if I want to rotate them, I can unmask and then just rotate it down. And then if I want to bevel this, I can go through and just like bevel edge complete. Now let's say, well, that's great, but I just want a thin mesh. No problem. Group by normals, isolate this, delete hidden, and there you go. You got it. You got your thin mesh. Actually, let me show you this guy. Guy named Alex O on YouTube, and he's done. You know, he does a lot of thin modeling. So for example, this car model here, he's just making this entire car body. And again, it's a thin mesh. It's not, you can still extrude your edges and you can bridge and you can still make shapes and stuff. But by the end here, you know, just using that thin edge technique, you know, you can have an entire car body ready to go. And then there you go. So all just using that method I just showed you, you can do quite a lot of just really easy box modeling shapes and creasing and stuff. So do you ever consider retopologizing the model using the Topo brush in ZBrush? The Topo brush for me, I only use for really simple things. I get really frustrated with like trying to get the curves to match up. Like I've seen, oh, what's his name? Oh, it's been so long. Like SIGGRAPH 2013, when Topology Brush came out, and the curves were a big deal. There's a guy from I think DreamWorks. I can't remember his name. Damn. Anyway, he like topologized an entire head using the Topology Brush, and that's not for me. I would just use these for topology. It gives me a little bit more control. Well, when baking, do you make the strap and the button separate meshes, or do you bake them into the shirt? So let's go back to where we were here. So for like this we were working on, or her we were working on, it kind of depends on your budget. So if you have, it's a very low budget and all of this needs to be kind of just topologized together and no inside faces, it would just be baked on detail. If you have a higher poly budget and you want to make these buttons separate and you want to make the strap separate with the game res here and the shirt separate, you know, you got to talk. It's basically talking to the animators, the riggers, really, how they would best end your budget, and kind of getting a consensus on what would be the best way. Let me turn off topology here. I forgot I had that on here. How to best use your budget and also make other downstream departments' lives easier, depending on how it gets put together. Cool, cool. And how would I create a gear with Zmodeler? Probably with Radial Symmetry, and that's how I assume a lot of these gears were made. If you go into the brush oh, come on. I understand, you need something here. So brush insert, and you can kind of reverse engineer these things, I believe. There's not a lot of gears in there. Brush insert steam gear, there we go. Oh, and so some of these things, I know how they were created. Some of these things, I'm assuming, were created with radial symmetry. So something like this, we can actually hit W, and then we can go through and cycle through here, and we can kind of eyeball these a little bit. So something like this is probably just like a cylinder, and then you turn on radial symmetry, and then you Q-mesh, you know, 16, and then you Q-mesh 8, and you do that. Another really easy one is to go into the gear primitive, and you can do all sorts of cool stuff with this one. I was just playing with this one the other day here. So if you go through here and you initialize, you change the width, you can skew it inside or outside, you can tilt it to be like a little coupling, you can change the interior radius, you can go in here into the outer, you You can make it like a train wheel, or otherwise you can make these more or less. You can go to the outer profile. If you hit reset, that'll reset it, and you can go ahead and make these. Let's reset this, and let's just pull this up. Make these more or less, and then you can go down here to outer section, and I'm just going to hit reset on that one too. So this will let you control the profile of this outer section here, so you can kind of scoop it in, scoop it out. And then the inner height and radial count here, and then the inner profile. If we reset that, this allows you to change these profiles. And then if you go here to the inner section and we reset, now you can control where these things end up. So let's go ahead and reset that, and we'll just move this back up a little bit. So yeah, a lot of, and I think on the back here, there's some stuff you can do in the back. But anyway, that's another way to make gears. But yeah, the cylinder method would just be like, take a cylinder. This is a cylinder of 32. If you want to, you can just make polymesh 3D. You don't have to go down to initialize. We'll go to geometry, edge loop, delete loops, make this thinner. And then if we go in here to ZBrush transform, and then we'll say, I want to have symmetry turned on, but not X symmetry. We want radial symmetry, so I'm going to turn on radial symmetry here, and I want it in the Y. And then it's 32, so let's say we drop this down to 16. And then so if we go into our QMesh brush, we can hover our face, QMesh polygroup all, and we can, oops, Alt tap this one, and we can start making gears like this. And then you can go through here and you can say like slide edge this way and this way. And then we can turn symmetry off, and we can say inset. Let's do a quick group by normals. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Hold on, Alt, mark these. Inset polygroup all region, and we'll just pull this one in, and then same thing back here. And then we can just tap to get the same radius. Whoops. All right, make my brush size smaller here. Let's isolate this. Let's do a quick auto groups. There we go. And now when I do an inset, did that give me a polygroup? There. Let me make that more obvious. There you go. And then we'll do another inset, makes it the same radius. And now if we do a QMesh, we can just pull straight back. I'll go ahead and resolve those for us. So even in here, we can say QMesh polygroup island. And we can tap Alt if we want to make it separate. And we can QMesh polygroup island again. And then in here, we can say polygroup polyloop. And then we can say QMesh. You know what I like to do is you can QMesh this in. I like to do an inset polygroup all. And then I like to do a QMesh polygroup island and hold down shift just to get a little bit of a draft on that, or a fall off on that thing, so you can make a gear. Any number of ways. Is polycount related to Texel Density? No, Texel Density will be controlled by, I mean, you can have a low poly object with a 4096 on it in your Texel Density. I mean, generally speaking, yes, you probably want your hero props to be high poly and your Texel Density to be high because you want fidelity. You don't want like little insignificant objects to have a really high polygon with very high Texel Density. So your Texel Density, when you're running through a game, should be even or equal, so you don't have nice resolution, and then you run by something that's like pixelated and gross, and you're like, whoa, that kind of takes me out of the experience. So even if it is all pixelated and gross, if it's consistent, you still maintain the experience. But if you have some high-res stuff and low-res stuff, it's not ideal. I haven't seen working much on Modo. It'd be interesting to say I handle the round edge shader in Modo in future. God, I haven't worked on Modo since I worked on Doom. That was the last time I used Modo. It's been a long time. I think my next thing to use, if it's just going to be a non-procedural modeler, is going to be Blender. But also, I'd like to get into Houdini more. So many things I'd like to do. Cool. I'm just going to scroll through here really quick. Yeah. Way to make a smooth transition between different materials on the same object. Yeah, we went over that yesterday. So when I break this out into essentially what it is, and it's not perfect, it's not the answer you're looking for, I'm pretty sure, but if you go into render properties, there is a material blend radius, crank that up, and then hit BPR and it'll blend that for you. Cool. What did I do on Doom? I don't even remember. That was that long ago. It kind of bleeds together with me with like Halo 2 Anniversary and then Call of Duty. I remember Call of Duty a little bit better than I remember Doom. I don't remember doing much on Doom. Nothing exciting. Hate to hate to smash any expectations you may have had for me on that game, but I have some fan art. Let's look at that. Sketch Fab. Let's do Pavlovich Sketch Fab. So here's a concept sketch I did, and it's not really fan art. It's just kind of like looking at some old Doom stuff, like the old original Cyber Demon with his guts hanging out. That what's his name painted. So let this zoom in here. I guess I can't go full screen, but I can try and make this a little bigger. Yeah. So, and this is again just a really simple concept sketch. It's very, very low res. If you looked at the source art, you'd be disappointed in me. But yeah, it's like all this is just sculpted in and quick material ID. In fact, I think this was textured in Ddo. This is like super duper old. Not that you can't use Ddo, it's a fine program. Or if it's even called Ddo anymore, I really don't even remember. But yeah, there's a little cyber demon dude. You can check that out on my Sketchfab. I guess I'll link you guys to that. Let me see. There you go. Knock yourself out. Okay, so let's keep moving forward. So we've talked about refining techniques, blah, 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 blah. Boots here, remember on my ArtStation page, there's a boot tutorial. It's got 18 videos on it on my YouTube channel. There's a boot tutorial on my playlist, so go and model yourself a pair of boots. Laces and everything. Okay, so we're refining this mech. Here's the mech, all refined and textured by Christian Gallego. You can see I drop in smart materials, and then he went through and made it really nice. So here's this all remodeled here. Again, like we talked about yesterday, the drone itself is only 16 meg. So if I load that file up, so start groups. You see it's 16 megabytes. And it's everything the drone is. The drone high res. It was modeled completely in ZBrush, 100%. And let that load up. So there it is, 16 meg worth of information. If you do want to turn off and on dynamic for everything, which I am going to want to do for this guy, I'm going to go over to Z plugin. Oops. Z plugin. There's a thing called Z repeat it. It's like action scripts. Do I have one already? Dynamic off, dynamic on. Essentially, all you need to do is hit record new, go to your geometry, turn that dynamic button off, hit end record, save it as dynamic off, and then you can just go through here. You can select dynamic off or dynamic on, whichever one you recorded. Dynamic off, all, and it'll go through all your subtools and turn dynamic off for you. Workflow is used to create an object with dimensions in ZBrush. If you wanted to create a gear with an inner radius of 10 inch and an outer radius of 30 inch. Whew. I'd use Fusion 360. If it's like something that needs to be printed and needs to be very, very precise, I'd use Fusion 360 just because, man, you can't beat CAD or any CAD program, it doesn't matter. Or you can do it in ZBrush. Let me let this operation finish. I also have like several hundred subtools on this, so it's going to take it a second to do this. But yeah, anything with a very precise thing, and you're talking about tolerances and stuff, CAD programs are the way to go. You can go between ZBrush and CAD programs. I do it, and it's a little bit dated, but you can go to my Michael Pavlovich playlist, and here there's a ZBrush Fusion 360 Quickstart in here somewhere. Let me make this a little bigger. Load more. There it is, Fusion 360 Quickstart. That video 12 in here has a going back and forth between imported objects and ZBrush, and then ZBrush to Fusion 360, and using that as a sketch, so you can go back and forth between them pretty easily in interesting ways. Like I said, these videos are pretty dated, but I think they're still relevant. But there is a Z plugin Scale Master in here where you can set your scene scale. There's also, I want to say there's like Ringmaster or something. Maybe I don't have it downloaded, but if you go to the Pixelogic Download Center, they got all sorts of stuff for like, yeah, there's Scale Master. Ringmaster has very precise dimensions. People in the comments might have better answer I'm not a super precise modeler, for better or for worse. Yeah, I kind of agree with Jonas. Do it accurately, then import it, and then use ZBrush. Scale Master also, if you go to Z plugin Scale Master, that'll kind of explain, if you click up here and you click this video, Joseph Dress will explain how on your geometry, let's close some of these down. On your geometry size, this value has size as a 0.5, and then you go down here to export. Your scale is at 89. Depending on what you import into ZBrush, it'll set those values to a specific number so that it works well within ZBrush, but then on export you get your proper scale back. So anyway, here's the drone. He has 315 subtools. If we go in here to our live Boolean, I don't have dynamic turned on for anything. I turned it all off just to make it work a little bit better. But you can see I do have dynamic subdivisions. I can turn on, and then live Boolean to go ahead, and if you turn this on and off, you can see where I'm doing my complex cuts for some of my objects there. Let's go ahead and, you know what, let's go to Material, Modifiers. I'm going to crank up this Intensity A a little bit, just brighten that up. So there you go. There's our drone, for example. In terms of the vectors, you put all the detail and the textures and the alphas, etc. I didn't do any alpha stamping or anything on this one. I basically modeled in everything that was going to break the silhouette or need to be modeled into the game res, and then yeah, for the detail-y stuff, let me see if I have a higher res version of this. Yeah. For this stuff in here, this is all like the bullet holes, any scratches or this kind of stuff. There's no point in doing that in ZBrush. If it's not going to break the silhouette, you're going to bake it. It's just too destructive. You can, if you just want to like do a 3D print, then that's fine, of course. But yeah, for development and stuff, it's easier just to go through and do anything that's not breaking the silhouette later. Chip paints, paint chips, chip paints, and bullet holes and stuff like that. Just do it later. So speaking of keeping things light, for example, if I go through here, let's do a quick, I'll show you. So you can see like in here, and you look in this little swinging winch here, you're going to see, oh, it looks fine. It's got all these things here. So if I go here and I hit D, there's my dynamic preview. So I can go through here and I can hit dynamic on and everything looks fine in high res. However, if I go over here to Subtool, Merge Visible, and I go look at this, you're going to see all that stuff disappears because what I did was I didn't sit here and just, I mean, you can do this. You can go, okay, let's split hidden. Let's do an auto groups, and let's split this one off. So for this one, you can go through here, and you can say, hold down Control and drag out a copy, hold down Control, drag out a copy, or you can hold down Control, drag out a copy, keep your mouse held down, but let go of Control, and you can go, you can make copies like this. Or what I prefer to do is go down here to Array Mesh, turn on Array Mesh, Transpose, Lock Size, Lock Position, hit W, hit Y to get our trusty Transpose tool out. And now if I go through here, I can say, okay, I want this, hold down Shift, and we can say the repeats. You can add in the repeats over in the Array Mesh settings. There we go. So we can make our repeats however long we want. And you can scale them if you want to, but we're just going to move these back. So I'm going to say you get moved back here. And depending on how far out you want this to go, you can dial in how many repeats you want and all that good stuff. So using Array Mesh to keep my scene light and consistent is that. And then also on the dynamic side, you know, this piece right here, let's just do Control-Shift, Control-Shift-A, and we'll go ahead and split hidden. So for example, this is all this is, but when I hit D and we do like crease level of 3, smooth selective of 4, it looks a lot more resolved than it is. And of course I can still continue to work on this like we were doing before. Let's hit X symmetry here. And let's do a quick group by normals, mirror and weld, and then we'll just do like an inset, polygroup all. We'll inset this one more time, and then we'll just do a Q mesh. And then we'll just say push this back a little bit, and then we go like brush, insert, model kit. And then we'll say hit M, and we'll say put this in there. We can, let's hit Y so we get our gizmo back. We have LSIM turned on, so we can just do across the local axis, and we'll go ahead and just do a split on mass points. So now, you know, we can continue refining and modeling this thing, and then when you hit D, it looks nice and refined. Let's go ahead and do a crease here. Now, if we don't want that creased, instead of doing a crease there, we can do a crease PG. Oh, those are polygroups. So, okay, let's do this. Crease, edge, just uncrease these. Or if you want to have one creased, you can. And if you want to add more detail in here, insert multiple edge loops here, and then we'll say Q mesh, or we'll do an inset. And then we'll do a Q mesh, because I like that better. And then you can do another crease PG, and then we'll do a, if you want to not have to do that, and you want to use crease PG, just go up here. You can hold down Alt and start painting, and then tap Shift, and that'll inherit it, and then it'll continue to paint with that polygroup. So now we can do uncrease all, crease PG, and then it'll just be more consistent. So there you go. It's possible to groom fiber mesh in symmetry mode without making weird symmetry groom on the outside of the mesh. We'll get the hair in a little bit. I hate grooming hair, so I'll show you some alternatives. For a quick project like this, you use UV manually or use UV master. If for concept stuff, I'll use UV master or just auto UV in whatever program, or Houdini, for example. Oops. Let's go back one. If you want really fast game res and UVs, go to this Houdini game dev toolset. It's only a couple hours. It'll walk you through exactly how to do all this stuff in Houdini. Save you a lot of time. You can set up a repeatable procedural workflow for your game res stuff. So that's what I would use. But as far as like doing the real UVs, then yeah, I hand UV it. So probably I use mostly Hedis and Maya. I wonder if you, Jonas says, I wonder if you ever used height maps generated by Substance Painter after texturing details, put it back into ZBrush displacement for 3D printing. Yeah, you could do that, and that would be under here, under the displacement menu, displacement map, load it up here, turn your displacement on, change the intensity to kind of dial in where it should go. Now, you probably are going to need, you couldn't use geometry like this. This is way too low, so at this point you would say apply. And I guess probably the easiest thing to do, to make sure the geometry is very even for even distribution of whatever details where you put them, just Dynamesh it. Now, of course, that's too low, so there you go. So just Dynamesh this. You can also use Dynamesh Master to dial in exactly how many polygons you want. So that way, when you apply your displacement map, although you can't apply your displacement map if it doesn't have UV, so you can't use Dynamesh Master. So you would have to make sure your geometry is fairly even, subdivide, apply your displacement, and then you could Dynamesh if you wanted to. So ignore what I just said, but yeah, it might be a couple hoops to jump through, but yeah, you could do it. Cool. Possible to download your menus? Yes, you can. So if we go to and so go to ZBrush, go to Gumroad, Pavlovich, and if you scroll down, and this is free, I'm not trying to sell you on anything. Scroll down until you see Intro to ZBrush Files, and then in here you will find my ZBrush 2018 and older versions in there if you want them, so I'll go ahead and link you to that. And my hotkeys are in there too if you want them, but make your own hotkeys, whatever makes sense for you. Cool, thanks for the kind words, Marco. Thanks for showing up. I haven't had breakfast yet. In fact, I just woke up and then I had some CGMA stuff to do, so I just rolled in here and did some intro text and okay, so let's keep rolling. Yeah, keep your stuff light. The array mesh here is also useful. I need to turn that off. So if you want to turn that off, go in here to Preferences, Quick Saves. I'm going to change my maximum duration to 20, max quick save file. Oops, nope, restoration to 600. So, because I really don't care about saving the stuff I'm working on right now. So we go back here to this mech, and we're going to, so you can see this piece right here. Control-Shift-A. This piece right here only has one piece, but it's actually doubled up on the original. here, and that's because we have array mesh turned on. So if I want to model on this piece, and it's like, okay, I want to model, but man, I want it to be the same, but I want to kind of model on the inside here. It's easy enough just to go through here, and so you can see this is just an instance. Turn off array mesh, go through here, do whatever modeling you need to do. Let's like inset, let's just do a polygroup island here. And then we'll say, let's inset that a little bit more, and then we'll Q-mesh that out. So okay, now I'm done modeling, and then you can turn your array mesh back on, and your other piece will be updated. So that way, when you're working on the stuff like boots, you don't have to sit there and go like, oh, let me hide my boot, model on the inside of the boot, mirror and weld it later. Just use array mesh. So I use array mesh all over the place on this thing, and it's also an instance, so it's pretty cheap. So like on the toes here, I go into solo mode and turn array mesh off. I use the array mesh on those things. On the inside of the leg, the thighs here. So these little pieces right here, I have array mesh on. And you can actually, once you turn array mesh on for one object here, and you put another object, like these little cut-in objects here, you can, if you insert them on the array meshed object, it'll inherit the array mesh property, so it'll just array mesh perfectly later on. So use array mesh. Here's one. So let's demo this thing. Let's go to load tool here. And we'll go to streaming, summit, demos, nanomesh. So here it is all set up. First, let's turn off live boolean. Go out of edit mode, hit Control N. Let's go ahead and make that little hex bolt. So I'm going to go to Sphere 3D, go into edit mode. And since we're doing a hex bolt, hex is 6, I think. Go to initialize, and then we're going to do h divide 16. Nope, 6 times 2 is 12, right? And then v divides of, let's say 12. Even that out. So let's go ahead and say make polymesh 3D. So I'm going to go ahead and just hold down Control Shift and then Alt and delete hidden, and then hover over this edge with my Zmodeler Brush, BZM, close convex hole, close that out. I'm going to make this one polygroup here. So we've got our hex bolt started. Now I can go in here and I can try and do like a clip curve to kind of flatten that out, and that'll work just fine. Sometimes if it gives you a little bit of a trouble, you can go through here and you can just do your Z scaling. A lot of different ways to do that, but let's say that works, and we hit D for dynamic just to preview it, and that's looking pretty good. So we'll do Shift D. So now I want to put a hex bolt in here. So I'm going to hold down Alt, and we'll just mark these, and we'll do Q-mesh, polygroup all, or we can do an inset if you want, but we'll just do Q-mesh for now. And we can Q-mesh this down. Now it's not very hexy because again it's 12-sided, which I don't even begin to know what that is. However, you can go through here with this edge and you can say, what is it? Align. Align edge strip. So you can take this edge here and then this edge here and it'll align them, and then this edge here and this edge here and align it, and then align it, and then it'll align it, and it will align it, and it will align it. There's your hex bolt. So let's go ahead and just run a quick crease on here, and if we hit D, and we'll say, you know, our usual crease level 3 smooth to before, that'll give us a hex bolt start. I mean, this hex bolt looks a little bit bubbly, so I'm gonna scale this down a little bit, and also it kind of terminates abruptly. So I'm gonna hit Shift D. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to say Q-mesh polygroup all, and we're just going to Q-mesh this back a little bit. And I'm going to uncrease. Well, you can always do an uncrease all and then crease again, and then it'll be fine. So this is the more of the shape I'm looking for. Now, you might be saying that hex is too small. That's okay. Let's hold down Control Shift. Let's isolate these parts, and of course we're getting some more polygroups back here. Let's do a quick auto groups. You can, and I am constantly grouping my normals, auto groups. I can always change these. You know, I can always go through here and groups my normals at any time, and it'll give me, let's make that more obvious, it'll give me the polygroups I kind of need. You can also do Control Shift and then Control Shift X to expand, and you can grab all these. You can hit Control W, or you can do Control Shift X to expand, Control Shift tap that one, Control W to make those all one polygroup. So a lot of different ways to do that. You want both of these, you can isolate them. Control tap to mask them, Control Shift tap to bring everything back, Control tap to invert that mask, and now we can go to Unmatch Mesh Center, or more accurately, I want to hold down Alt and tap that point to set that pivot. Now if you just scale, it's going to go out and in, right? If you scale, I think it's Y or maybe Z. Let's try it. So I'm going to start scaling in this direction, but I'm going to hold down Alt, and now it's just going to scale in that axis. So now I can make this bigger, And then we can run, make sure we have our creases set, hit D, and now we have our hex bolt ready to go. So I can hit B, create insert mesh, B, create insert mesh, new, and then now if we go, whoa, and then now if we go back to our working file here, let's tap this one. So if we want to insert bolts on here, you can hold down Control and it'll snap to your brush size. You can make it smaller. You want to make sure you have dynamic turned on. If you have it off and you it's just double tapping that. And you're going through here and you're holding down Control to make these bolts the same size, and you back up your camera and hold down Control, your brush is going to be, relatively speaking, larger. And if you zoom in, it's going to be relatively smaller. So you want to make sure double tap dynamic is turned on. You can even turn on this dynamic. If you want more information on dynamic remembering and draw size remembering, it's my YouTube videos on Intro to ZBrush 2018, What's New, right here. That'll walk you through more details on that. So anyway, that's one way to do it. And then now you have insert mesh brushes. But let's say, you know what, I changed my mind. I want to have these, but I also want to put a little ridge on it, or I want to make these a Phillips head. It's going to be a pain to do. So let's go ahead and we can take this undo slider and just undo back to where we started here. There we go. So what we have instead in place is we have two subtools here. So if we click on this one and go into solo mode, we have a bunch of, let's go down here to nano mesh, turn off show placement. We have a bunch of what looks like insert mesh brushes, right? However, those are actually, if we turn on show placement, those are just a bunch of planes that have a nano mesh attached. Now how we would do that is essentially, it's fairly simple. Let's go down here. Let's make a polyplane. And you can go down here to initialize and say, you know, H divides, V divides, and then just make it plain. Pardon the pun. But if we go in here to make polymesh 3D, I also go down here to geometry, hit reconstruct a bunch of times, and then delete higher. So now we have B, create insert mesh, new, and then we can go back to any object here. And then now this one, you can hold down Control, and you can snap these to be whatever size you want, and then hold down Control Shift. Let's go ahead and split hidden. So on our subtool menu now, we have a bunch of planes, and then we can go to our Zmodeler Brush BZM. By default, if you hover over a face and you do, let's hit Control W, make these all one polygroup. Insert nanomesh, polygroup all. It'll insert a cube. You can go through here and you can select, just hit M, and you can select something you have sitting there. You can also go in here to brush, insert, say industrial parts, and then under brush create, you can say create insert nanomesh brush. That'll throw down here a new Zmodeler Brush. When you hover over face, it'll say insert nanomesh, polygroup all, and now you can choose which nanomesh you want to have dragged out. Then you can go into your nanomesh properties, and yeah, that'll work. So you can go to your nanomesh properties and you can say, I want to fill the object with size of 1, so it's always going to fill it, or you can do proportional and change the size however you'd like. And then at that point, you can turn off show placement, and now it looks like you inserted those. And you can also go through here and you can do like Z offset. So this is something too. You would have to manually go through and move these things one by one if you had it as an insert mesh brush, but you can always go in here into Z offset. You can also go in here and you can do, not Y rotation probably, but like Z rotation if you want to, or even Z variance rotation if you want to vary it up a little bit. And if you ever want to change this or edit it, go into edit mesh, and we can say, you know what, on this thing here, I was really hoping to have maybe inset polygroup island region, and then we like Q mesh this up. I don't know why you'd want that, but let's say you did, and let's say also you wanted like a bevel here. And so you can say go out of edit mesh, and now those have been updated. Or go into edit mesh, and you're like, you know what, I don't even like that. So I'm going to go to brush, insert, industrial parts, hit W, and I'm going to say I'm going to swap you out with a Phillips head. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick unify just to make it the right size. Go out of edit mesh, and now these have all been updated to Phillips head. And then of course we'll go in here to our Z offset. We'll push those back in. So a lot more flexibility. So when you go into something like this, you can see, and I also I went through and I scaled the planes here to make sure, so I match, let's go into dynamic properties here. I did fit with the size of 1, so as I go through here, and let's say I wanted to scale these up or down, it would just scale along with the plane. So it gives me that flexibility as well. Make sense? Cool. Thanks for the kind words, everybody. Thanks for showing up. When new ZBrush comes out and you have a custom UI from the previous version that makes all the new UI stuff go away, is there a way to have both? What I do when a new ZBrush version comes out, if it's a point release like 2018.1, 2018.2, I'll just, you know, it should update without killing it. But if it's like a big point release like 4R7 to 4R8, I will take a screenshot of my custom menu and recreate it from scratch. It only takes a minute or 5 minutes, and it just makes sure that everything is clean, there's no gremlins, and it also gives you an opportunity to kind of rethink. Like, it gives you a chance to sit down and go, you know what, when's the last time I actually touch that button? If you haven't, get rid of it, and then maybe think like, you know what I do use a lot nowadays though? Go grab it. Yeah, Pablo Munoz Gomez we talked about yesterday. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel and you go to the ZBrush stylized rendering, we use his PDF from his website, and we do a video series, companion series with that. But we were talking about that with the materials yesterday, and I really don't know where that is right now. I think I will. There it is, stylized rendering. Yes. Did you try the new plugin Peel UV? I have not. Looks cool though. Do you block out in Maya Max or directly in ZBrush? I haven't used Maya and Max to model in like 6 years. I mean, I use Maya as my backbone for production. I mean, I did use Maya a little bit with like the new Boolean tools, and I'm not saying it's a bad or a good modeler. I think it's a great modeler, better than most people give it credit for. But my models are so simple. And you may be thinking, well, that mech doesn't look very simple, but really it is. There's not a lot of complex modeling going on here. So I just use ZBrush for any. I can do some fairly complex stuff in ZBrush for sure. You know, these are always fun to do here. This kind of stuff we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, it's ZBrush. This is 100% ZBrush. So reduce, reuse, recycle. Yeah. So when I did our back radio, which again is another 100% ZBrush one, we go in here to Summit Characters, back radio. So you can see this back radio here. And oh, I think we fixed this a little few things on here too. Did it maintain? Yeah, it didn't. So we can, you know, go into live Boolean here and you can see here's a little back radio I made. And then when I went to do my mech here, you can see I just put that back radio. I put some antennas into the ports on the top. So, you know, this has a little antenna array. But even this radio right here is an array mesh. So I go down here to array mesh. It's not a copy. It's just, or it's an instance, not like a dragged out copy. So I can, again, keep my stuff under control here. Complex hard surface retopology. Do you retopologize by hand or do you keep some lows during the process and reuse them in optimization? Yeah, so what I try to do is I think about if something is going to be modeled eventually. Let me see if there's a good example of like something's going to be modeled in. I try to just like do Zmodeler and actually model the shape. But if it's just going to be like little greebly stuff, let me just do an example real quick. So for example, cylinder 3D here. And we'll go ahead and say make polymesh 3D. So yesterday we talked about mesh fusion. So we'll do that again. We'll do a quick group by normals here, and we'll do an inset polygroup island region. And on here we can go into, so 2 different ways to use Boolean brushes. Whoops, what am I thinking? Brush, insert Boolean M. So I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what? Let's do this. Subtool, duplicate this off, hit W, go into solo mode. I want to borrow, again, we're just kind of retreading some stuff we've already talked about, but we'll go into Unify here. So I'm going to say U. You can also, if it has clipped, hold on, tap Control, it'll temporarily go to visibility, delete hidden, brush, create insert, whoops, brush, create insert mesh new. And then now we can delete that. Go back to our cylinder here. Now with Mesh Fusion, you can drag that out, and you can even move this away, Control Drag, and it'll make those things work together. You can also hold down Alt and have it go in here, and then it'll resolve that for you. So if you just run a crease tolerance and dynamic, now you have very complex shape. So if this complex shape here is something I wanted to game res, then I would just make sure it was modeled in, that kind of stuff. And so I would go in here and it's like, okay, it's going to be in the game res, so I'm going to bevel. It's going to have a big, heavy bevel on here. Or we can do a heavy bevel on here. We can go to Insert, Multiple Edge Loops, Interactive Elevation, and we can actually round this off a little bit. So if this is all going to be game res stuff, and we can like crease this edge loop complete here. Bing, well, something like that. So we can have a rounded edge here and then a creased edge here, and this is all going to be in the game model, then I would do this. However, if you're going to do stuff like brush insert, Boolean M, say this kind of detail here, and let's go ahead and do a split on mask points, make that live Boolean here. So it's like this kind of detail, it's going to like be baked into the object, and you hold down Control. You can even make an array mesh out of this if you wanted to. But like this stuff is just going to be baked into the texture. I'll make it a live Boolean, so I can go in here and I can say Boolean, dynamic subdivision, make Boolean mesh. This will be my high res that I bake from. And then my game res, I just go, you're gone. Here's my game res. And you can optimize a little bit, where it's like, you know what, this is my game res, but that little piece right there doesn't have to be modeled in. You could make that a live Boolean. You can also go through here and you can just say collapse poly loop, and you can just collapse that thing up, and then go through here and just collapse these. Whoa, you may have to do it one by one. So it'll be a little bit of optimization in here to go through and just kind of, you know, do your usual polygon optimization to go through and collapse edges and stuff. And also getting rid of extraneous geometry. Sometimes you can use geometry, edge loop, delete loops, depending on your angle threshold, and it'll get rid of extraneous loops for you. So, cool. See you later, John. Hopefully we'll be back. I try to do the first Tuesday of every month on Pixelogic's channel, and then the first Thursday of every month on my channel. Imperial says, I have a question about UVs. Made a chain and unwrap it with UV Master, so I got a lot of similar pieces. How can I combine them into one piece? So in ZBrush, I'm not sure. In Maya, there's a really great one called Transfer Attributes, and you can transfer the UVs. So you select one chain link, you select the next one, you select the chain link you like the UVs, select the next chain link. If it has the same topology, it'll transfer your UVs to that one, and then you control tap that one, select, shift select the next one, transfer, control tap, shift select, transfer, control tap, transfer. You might be able to write a script for it, but that's how I would do that. Cool. Well, good luck with the dog, Dave. Dog should be pretty fun. I am so lazy, I would be like, I'm going to model a dog, and I'm almost done. Yes, thank you. That's exactly right, pre-drag. Cool. It's a good idea to reference any recent games and analyze their models, what was baked in and what was modeled, for sure. Yeah, any time you can learn, or and it's always like, even when you're designing something, being mindful of what you think a cool design is, or even in real life, what makes something work, and being mindful of it, and kind of like, you don't have to study, you don't have to be a mechanical engineer, but just kind of thinking about those type of things will make you better. And it'll make you better than me, because for a long time, come on, turn off, hold on. Sorry, I was getting cold in here. For a long time, I wasn't very mindful, so I'm trying to play catch up now. So really good book on that one is H Point, and Robot Evolution's another good one. So cool. Alrighty, let's keep rolling. So here is where the animators take over, and they do all the cool stuff. And you know, we're always testing functionality as we're modeling, ideally, right? So that when the animators, and you do go back and forth with the animators a lot too in the idea concept phase. Number one, because they can throw up any red flags that they can see in your model. Number two, if you're animating while you're modeling, you know, you can call them over, and they'll usually have really good ideas where they're like, oh, you know, it'd be cool is if it like when he goes into his ready state, this thing floop, 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 and it's like, oh, you know, that would be cool. So you go in and put that functionality in there, and then they can go through and make them moonwalk. Something I something I can't do. Okay, we're into Z-spheres here. So this one, do we demo? You know what? I think I demoed this one at the summit, but we'll go ahead and do it again. Let's see. Summit demos, Z-sphere Rollcage. So, for example, we have a Rollcage in here, and it's just Z-spheres. There's two ways you can do this. If you have a Z-sphere cage here and you hit A, you're going to see it looks like this. If yours doesn't look like this, it probably looks something like this. So if you hit A and then A again, looks something like this. This is the adaptive skin. If you turn adaptive skin down to 0 and hit A, and your density, you can change however you'd like, but usually I use a density of 1. So this will be what I use. I can make adaptive skin. However, if I hit A and I hit W and I just cross these over, I think this will work. I haven't actually tried it yet, but it makes sense in my brain. And then I turn up a Dynamesh resolution and I hit A. It'll Dynamesh those together. So you can make an adaptive skin and it'll close those together. Now the only difference is in this one, what you'd have to do is hold down Control Shift, go into select lasso, and then pull these little pods off here, delete hidden, and then bridge these two holes, and let's do spline, not circle, here to here. And then what I do is I like to go through here. You can try doing the whole geometry, delete loops, and that'll kind of clean it up for you. You can try changing that angle if you want to delete more or less of the loops, but that does a lot of the work for you. And then you go in here and insert single edge loop, pull down Alt, and just kind of simplify this. And then when I hit D, you have I mean, honestly, I'd go back in here after deleting those extraneous loops and just put in my control loops here. You can, oh, you know what? That's even better. I like that. Hold on. So let's see if this will work. Inset Polygroup Island. Yeah, go through here and inset. Oh, I'm so smart, even though it was on accident. So that's the cool thing too, is happy accidents will happen, and you can pretend like it was all on purpose. So you put in your control loops like that, and then that'll maintain those edges for you. So you get nice, clean geometry. You're already pretty much on your way to game resing. You know, your game res could simply be this, or possibly maybe this, you know, depending on what kind of loops you need, and you can delete extraneous from there. The alternative would be to Dynamesh to close those, but now you got to go in here and like ZBrush half, adaptive size down to 0, and ZBrush will give you some geometry, but then you got to go in and do cleanup and on this one, and it can be kind of a pain. So I'll let you use whatever one you like to use. I prefer this method to get me a nice clean roll cage that gets things stuck together. And where that is right here on here. So there's a little roll cage. I don't want to call it a roll cage, it's just a cage that allows this Apache helicopter gun to be supported underneath there. Also, if you want to, now we're getting into controlling curves. So if you want to, you can go through here and you can say, let's start with a cylinder. We're going to simplify this cylinder. So we're going to go to initialize, and then we're going to say H divides of like 12, and then V divides of like 4, and that gives us a nice simple cylinder here. You can make an insert mesh brush out of this if you want to, but what I'm going to do is just hit W and then control drag out a copy, control drag out a copy, control drag out a copy. And this will be where I want my curve to go. And then you can also go through here and you can say, you know what, I want this one to be, actually let's do this. Let's do auto groups and then hit W, control tap this one. You can like make this one kind of bend out a little bit, and then this one kind of bend in a little bit, and you know what, maybe this starts to rotate here. So maybe that's the path I want it to take. I'm going to do a quick group by normals, and then I'm going to go through here and I can say delete polygroup all. Let me say delete this one. I want to go here to here, and then here to here to here to here, and then I can bridge two, oops, over an edge, bridge, two holes, spline, or whatever one you want to use if you have particular ways you want it to kind of flow. And then now you can make this kind of go here to here to here. So that's one way you can do it. Get a little spline here. So if you want to, you can do another group by normals, and now you have fairly, let's do it like Crease Polygroup, Crease level 3, smooth set of a 4, so something like this. Get your pipe going. And then if you want to model some details on this pipe, what you can do is, there's so many things you can do. So this is one way to make a pipe that's simple, or a wire, and then from this you can do all sorts of crazy things. So let's talk about that, and then we'll get into Z-spheres and how to control those curves. So for example, on this one we want to detail it out a little bit. We want to put like maybe a lump in here where there's maybe a conduit or something, so we can go through here. We'll say polygroup polyloop here, oops, and we can say inset polygroup all, and then we can say QMesh polygroup all. We'll give it a little lump in here, and I don't want to crease that, or you know what, maybe I do. Let's say crease PG. There we go. So maybe you do want to crease that, or if you don't want to crease that but you do want to tighten it up just a little bit, let's say QMesh here. You can say just put a little bevel on there just to kind of loosen that up a little bit, and then maybe put in an insert. So we can hit D and see, like we can put an insert and just kind of just put in some control loops a little bit. So if you need a little bit more control, you can do that. Now let's say you want to put a companion tube along here. One way to do that, a couple different ways to do that. One way to do that is just to go down here to Subtool, and we'll go ahead and say duplicate this off. And you can say, I'm going to polygroup this poly loop here. Oh, actually, you know what? It's going to loop around here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say another group by normals. And I'm just going to isolate this one on my duplicate. Delete hidden. And even this one here, I don't, we'll leave the lump in there. Why not? Let's say it'll interact with that a little bit. So again, now we're going to go to polygroup poly. We're going to take this one, and then I'm just tapping and tapping Alt to get two different ones. Isolate that, Control Shift Delete, or Control Shift, isolate that one, delete hidden. Stroke. Now we're getting to the point in the stream where my voice starts to go. Because if you haven't noticed, I tend to try to cram about 5 hours worth of content into every hour. Oh, so stroke, curve functions, polygroups. You know what? And even just because it's so simple, let's go back to our cylinder here. Let's go down here to initialize. Let's make this really simple. So we're going to say 8, 4. Very, very simple. Make polymesh 3D. I'm going to go through here. If you wanted to make it a tripart brush, it would just be insert multiple edge loops. Hold down Control Shift. Let's grab this one here. Grab this one here. Hit Control W. Now we got 3 pieces. Let's make these a little bit more even. Brush. Create insert mesh. New. Now it's an insert mesh brush. But if you go up here to stroke, curve functions, curve mode, and then we go over here to brush. And we go over here to modifiers. We're going to say, yeah, you're a tripart brush. We'll weld your points. You can try and stretch if you want to. And now you got a little brush here. So now we can go back to what we were working on. And because we framed that polygroup here, we can just tap on here, and that'll go ahead and put that curve right along there. We can tap off to delete that curve, or you can go to your stroke settings, and you can say curve functions, curve modifiers. Delete is somewhere in here. There it is, delete. So now we've got that. Let's go ahead and do a split mask points, and you can keep this thing around if you want to. If you don't need it anymore, you just delete it. And now you can go through here, and you can like wrap this thing around. Now, if your size, dynamic size isn't going big enough, you can go into, you can turn dynamic off if you want to, but I like to keep that on. But I will go into preferences, and under, oh boy, where is it? Draw? Yeah, draw. Max brush size, you can crank that up to 5,000. So now I can go up to 5,000, or even better, you can say you can keep this at 1,000, and you can do the multiplier, dynamic brush scale. We can put that up to like 5. So now when I go to 1,000, it actually goes to like 5,000. So you can play with that there. So anyway, go through here and you can like wrap this thing around and however you want to do it. So now let's say this does wrap around my object, but in order to have a wire wrap around an object, sometimes you want to go in there and you want to put like a little tab in there to kind of keep these things together. So one thing I'm going to do, number one, this one is actually fairly low res. So I'm going to add a little bit of resolution to that one a little bit. Oh, you can also, God, I forgot to say, when you're in your curve, you can go in here to your curve curve functions and then do a smooth. That's you can see the hotkey is 6. It'll smooth that curve out for you. But you can do it after the fact as well. I'm going to group by normals, and then I'm going to go over here to our deformation, polish by features, and you can just polish by features, and it'll smooth it out. And if you're like, well, actually, let's do this. This will be a little bit cleaner. So, group by normals, isolate that. Geometry modify topology, delete hidden. Now let's see if we can do a polish by features. It still shrinks. And that should be a feature. It should be. Okay, polish by features open circles will really, it doesn't maintain the form, but it does smooth it out better. So we'll do open circle. And then you might be saying, well, I'm losing, and all you have to do is just tap it. I'm losing my thickness on my curve. That's okay. All you got to do is go back in here again, QMesh, polygroup all, and then just hold down shift and just inflate it along that surface normal. So this one here, let's go ahead and say, let's hit divide. And then we're going to, we can just divide it and that's fine. But what we can do now is we can duplicate this off and then we can delete lower. And actually, you know what, now that I think about it, let's not do a divide. Let's do a dynamic. We'll just turn on dynamic. And then when we duplicate it off, we divided it just so I get some more curvature on there. I can steal a little bit more geometry. In fact, let's hit divide one more time, delete lower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow some of this geometry to make a little loop over this thing. So what I'm going to do is hover over this one here, and we're going to do a polygroup, polyloop here, and then I can isolate this, and then we can do like a QMesh polygroup all. Now, if this is too much geometry for you, you can go into ZRemesher, depth size down to 0.5. That'll simplify it for you, like so. And you can just take this and like pull it off. But what you can also do, if you wanted to loop over this thing, you can go into transparency mode. You can see where this tube is going to cross, and honestly, ideally, your tube is going to follow this a little bit because realistically, that's what it would have to do. If you're going to do something like, go back here, and you're going to take maybe this one, and you know what? Let's do this. Let's say, what's the best way to go about this? We can zero mesh that to make it simpler, or I'm just going to Q mesh this down a little bit. So when we do this one, I can say, let's get rid of this. We'll go insert, single edge loop, get rid of that. I'm just going to bridge these two. So I'm going to hover over this one, and we're going to say bridge, connected polys, circle, specified curvature. We want it a perfect circle, resolution of 8, align it to the normal, triangle sides, and then now we can just pop a little circle in there. We'll do another group by normals. And then now, this thing, if we do a crease and dynamic and crease level of 3, so instead of a 4. If it gives you any problems like that, it shouldn't. But you can always go in here and see if you can weld those points. There you go. So geometry modify topology weld. And then this one will have D turned on. So now you can have this thing kind of go through that. Little companion piece there. Could you make armor for this dog? Yes, for sure. Okay, not sure why there would be yes, so the Pav Custom, if you didn't catch that, Gumroad, Cube Brush, scroll down, and the Intro to ZBrush files is what you want. Now, if there's a way to get installed for non-corporate users, that I don't know. I'm not sure where they are with that yet. PDF you have in your demo things from, is that some kind of tutorial we can buy? The ArtStation are I mean, I'm going to be putting this up on YouTube for free, all the stuff I'm doing now. The ArtStation one with this little image is just on my ArtStation. The only thing that's for sale is like the Intro to ZBrush Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, or Part 2, Part 3, and then my Reptile Creature series. Everything else is free. You just download it and watch them. And then what hotkeys are you using? So if you go into, let's see if I remember where this is. Data, Startup, Hotkeys. There you go. So Alt-W move, Alt-C is clay. So these are my hotkeys. You can pause the video. Also on the Intro to ZBrush files, you can just install my hotkeys if you'd like. And then that's where the hotkeys will end up when you copy them in there. So you can check those out. We're going to be on for another 15 minutes. Might go a little bit longer, see if we can finish this thing out. Yeah, oh yeah, so good. Let me pre-drag. He's bringing us some really good points about what a feature is. So in my hard surface stuff on my YouTube channel, which we've talked about a little bit, let's do this. Initialize. That's fine. Did it do it? Yes. Edit. Make polymesh 30. So for example, you go down and hold down the Control Shift and go through and you slice. And you slice. These creases, these slices, so polygroups are a feature. So if I go through here and I do a polish by feature open circle, if I do close circle, it will maintain my forms, but also really polish those lines. So where that comes in handy is if you do something like this, you mask something. And let me go turn off that preferences. So if you mask something and you hit Control W, if you mask something and you go down here to Geometry, Edge Loop Mask Border, it'll give you a nice slice. But if you don't, you hit Control W. If you want to polish this, you can go through here. You can do polish by features, and you can polish an open border. You can go through here and you can polish two polygroup borders. If you do open circle, it'll really polish that. So that's a good way to get this kind of stuff. And then you can go into like your panel loops here. We talked about this yesterday with panel loops presets. You can crank this up and make some hard surface stuff like that. You do have good points. Cool. Thanks, Bertram. Awesome. Yeah, I'll go check out my Discord channel's a mess. Bertram's helping me out, keeping me honest and learning, always learning something new. And there's those social media stuff and Discord, and I'm just getting so old, and I don't know how you young kids do it, but I'm trying. So, moving on. Controlling curves. So now we've talked a little bit about how to string these along. You can also use Z-spheres in very interesting ways. My preferred ways, actually. So let's say we have a Z-sphere. Go in edit mode. And then I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit. And then I'm going to hold down Shift. So when you're in draw mode, which is Q, and you hold down Shift, it'll snap to the previously sized Z-sphere. So you can do that. You can also hit Q and just go through here and just tap. And then you can go through here and you can move. And the cool thing about Z-spheres is you can go through here and you can rotate down a chain, or you can rotate individual things. So it's very easy to go through here and just tap in where you want the resolution and where you want these things to lay, like so. So I'll give you one way you can use this, and that would be what we've already talked about, which is under our adaptive skin, density of 1, Dynamesh off, preview. A is the preview button, by the way. If you like it, hit make adaptive skin. You got your skin Z-sphere out here, and now you can hold down Control Shift and go through here and say Alt, and then let me see, hold on. We'll do a quick delete hidden, and then we'll grab this one, and we'll say do a delete hidden. We can hit Control W, and then if we want to put a stroke something along here, we can say, first we can do again like we did. We can do a polish by features. We want to smooth this out. And then we can say, let's do a polygroup here and then here. Isolate this, delete hidden. We can use the brush we made. Now this brush is, let's do this first. Stroke, frame mesh, throw it on there. So, and we can make our brush size bigger or smaller, depending on what. And if it's a curve, if you want to embed it further, you can go into depth and you can drag your depth down, and that'll embed it further into the object. But because it's a curve, you can also go to like brush, insert, army curve, hit M. We can throw like a timing chain on there, and you can just replace it with a timing chain. You can make it bigger, You can make it smaller. And while you're messing with this curve, when it's red, that's your brush size. That controls how big it is. When it's blue, that controls the fall off or manipulating this curve. And so on this one here, with our stroke settings, let's drag this over here. You can go in here and you can say, you can do elastic or liquid. And a liquid, you can just keep dragging off. I mean, this is just a feature. You can just drag off on any of these things, but you can also go backwards, and you should be able to, let me see if it'll go drag backwards here. Huh, let's try. Oh, it is doing it. I'm dumb. I'm like, why isn't it doing it? Yeah, it is. So you can go through here and you can kind of delete as you drag backwards, or you can continue to add as you drag forwards, and so there you go. Drag backwards, drag forwards, and it'll delete as you go. You can also hover over these, and as you're dragging, you can hold down Control, and you can twist here. So it's up to you. A lot of different ways to control those curves. Now, we made an adaptive skin to do that. However, if we go back to our Z-sphere, you can use a plugin, Z plugin, called Curves Helper. Where is it? Curves Helper. So copy Z-sphere chain. Z-sphere chain is copied. Now we just need a mesh to throw that Z-sphere chain on. Say create curve, curve created, and then whatever brush you want to use. We'll use this curve here. We'll put like a bracelet, I guess. And now we can use that curve. Now, where is this Curves Helper? You might be saying, well, I'm going to go to the Z plugin, but in actuality, you're going to need to Google ZBrush Curves Helper and go to the Useful Small Z Curves and Macros of ZBrush for R8. And then there's Curves Helper here. Whoops. And then if you scroll down, you'll see the little Curves Helper zip. It'll tell you how to install it. Essentially, you're just going to go into our ZBrush 2018 Z Startup, same place where your Z plugins go when you download them. Zplug 64. Here's your data folder. Here's your script. I think Curves Helper is just a script, so you just copy that in. Restart ZBrush, then you have Curves Helper. So yeah, we talked about that. We talked about that. We talked about that. Good. Glad. Polygroups, blah, blah, blah. Curves Helper, blah, blah, blah. Now, another one. Let's say you have a cylinder, make Polymesh 3D, and you go in here to initialize, and you make it whatever you want. So we'll say like 12 and 4, and then we'll say make Polymesh 3D. And we'll go ahead and scale this down because I'm going to make a very long one here. And then we're going to go in here to insert multiple edge loops, and we're going to give this nice even geometry. And also, let's go ahead and turn off interactive elevation. Specified elevation is 0. We'll keep it regular. And actually, you know what? Let's make this a little bit smaller so we can see it on our screen a little bit better. So if I hit W, we can go into our deformers here. And again, like I did at the summit, you can make this at whatever axis you want. Let's say your gizmo's like this. Doesn't matter. Just hold down Alt and tap, and it'll reset the gizmo pivot, and then go to Unmatched Mesh Center. And then you can go in here and you can say, you can do a bend arc, and you can do like, let's bend this into an arc. Or I like bend curve, and bend curve by default, you got to go through here and you got to set the axis. We're going to go end to end, and then we're going to raise that resolution. And now you can go through here, and every single one of these things you can grab, like so. And you can kind of do this and kind of bend it around exactly how you want. You can also have the opportunity to go through here, and every single one of these has a twist. So you can go through here and you can kind of twist these things up. You can also scale them out if you want to. So you can go through here and you can twist, and you can scale however you'd like. And so now once you have this, let's go ahead and say we're good. So let's just hit W. Or if you want more information on this type of stuff, there's intros on my YouTube channel. What's new in ZBrush 4R8 goes over the beginner ones that kind of just started with 4R8, and then ZBrush 2018, what's new, I go over all the rest of them. So that'll give you more information on the gizmo functionality in R8, and then 2018 expounding on that. So let's go ahead and do our usual group by normals. We'll isolate this. Let's go to select rectangle. There we go. delete hidden. So now, let's say we want to create a bundle of wires. So I'm going to go through here, hover over this edge, we'll say polyloop, so here, and then I'm just tapping and then tapping Alt to inherit a new polygroup every time. Like so. And then now, if we go to stroke, and then frame our mesh, and then we grab that brush that we made, and we tap here. That'll go ahead and create our bundles. Again, change your depth however you'd like. If you can't tap off to get rid of these curves, go in here to delete curve, and now we've got this. Now we do still have that mesh sitting in there, and it's masked out by default because, of course, when you're using these, the auto mask mesh insert is still pertinent to your curves. So we're going to go down here, we're going to split unmasked points. So if you want to keep this thing around, you certainly can. I don't need to see it, so I'm going to turn it off. And then now we've got our bundle here. So now with this bundle, a lot of cool things we can do, like if we want to, trying to think of the order of operations here I want to do. Let's do this. I'm going to duplicate this off. I'm going to go ahead and say Dynamesh this, and it doesn't, the resolution is kind of, is what you make it. Probably a lower is better. There you go. So if I want to say, you know what, a cord needs to be wrapped around here, just keep these bundles together, and let's say one of the things popped open so it started to spread a little bit. So I'm going to go through here. You can go into slice. Let's hit Control W, make it all one polygroup. You can go through here and you can slice and slice, or like we did before, B radius, this will be your brush radius. So now when you slice, it'll give you a little brush radius, and that'll keep things consistent as well. So if we want a consistent, let's do that better. We'll follow that curve a little bit more, and then we'll put a slice here and a slice here. So those will be our bundles. So hold on, Control Shift, and let's isolate this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one. Control Shift drag to invert that. We'll delete hidden. I'm going to do an auto groups because there was an interior space on these. So I'm going to grab all these exterior ones here, invert that, delete hidden, and now we can simply do a remesh, adapt the size down to 0, half, and just simplify these. You can hit Control W, make them all one polygroup. So when we go in here, we can now do QMesh polygroup all, like so. And you can do fancier things too if you want to, like we can QMesh all these and then pull these out to give it a little bit of a ridge, or you can do an inset polygroup all and you can inset these, and then you can do QMesh polygroup all, you can pull it in or you can pull it out. And now when you're doing QMesh, be careful because it's going to want to snap through, which is a feature. You know, if you want those shapes, boom, you're done. But if you don't, extrude is probably your best bet. So, and also if you want to make these thicker on the inside, extrude or QMesh polygroup all, hold down Shift, just pull along those and they'll all follow all at the same time. And then extrude polygroup all, or we can do another inset. And then we can do QMesh, hold down Shift, and then now those will be inset. And then we'll go ahead and do like a crease dynamic, crease level of 3, smooth level of 4. And now we got our bundle of wires here. We can hit D for dynamic preview, all that good stuff. Now, let's say we wanted to pose these things. You can use Transpose Master if you want to transpose both of these. Oh, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. Alternatively, you could merge these down, run a Z-sphere through here and rig it. But if we want to use Transpose Master, because we've got multiple subtools now, this one we don't really need anymore, so I'm just going to delete that. So let's say we want to pose this one out. We want to make some changes to it, and it's very complicated to mask and transpose. So what we're going to do, go to Z plugin here, and we're going to say Transpose Master. We're going to T-pose mesh with a Z-sphere rig. So that'll give us our mesh here, and then we've got a little Z-sphere in here that we can scale. And then I'm going to hold on W. And you know what, let's scale these down just a little bit so we can see a little bit better. And then I'm going to hold down, Shift, and we'll snap it to the same size. These size doesn't really matter. No jokes on that. But it's basically we're going to, you don't paint weights in ZBrush, but what you can do is allow Z-spheres to kind of put weights in there for you. So essentially what we're doing is we're putting a skeleton down the middle of this object here, like so, and then we'll hit Q, and then we'll just go through here and we'll just drag these things into place. You can also do the exact same thing with humans. I have videos on that. I think I have videos on that, but it's in my CGMA class videos, which I'm going to be releasing soon on Gumroad. But in the meantime, you can go to Paul Gabry's channel. He has some Paul Gabry YouTube. He doesn't have a whole lot of videos right now, but he does have videos on exactly what I'm doing here, which is transpose master with Z-sphere rigs. So if we have our Z-spheres all set up here, all we got to do is go down to our Z-sphere, go to rigging, say bind mesh, and that'll bind your mesh to your Z-sphere rig. So now when I go in here to rotate, it'll follow. So you can go through here and you can pose out your chords a little bit more. And also, if we go out of bind mesh mode here, and we go into layers, if you had just had this just a straight line, you can say add a new layer, and then go ahead and bind the mesh, and then as you're posing these out, and you can even use scale. You can get crazy with this stuff if you want to. You can scale these in and out, or even move. But generally speaking, you probably just want to do rotations. So you can go through here and you can rotate this out and pose it however you'd like. And then you can say, okay, I'm done with that. And now your pose will be on a layer. So you can put that back down to 0. You can make a new layer and then go through here and you can record a new layer, or you can record a new pose. So you can take something and pose it out a different way, save these all as poses. And then when you're happy with that, you can say, okay, I'm good. And then those will be all on a layer. And you can always go back to bind pose without having to unbind your mesh. And if you're happy with this, you can say, let's go back to Topo sub. Now, you can tell it when you go and transpose these, put it on a layer so it's even less destructive. So as it's being posed, you can always go back and take it out. We'll just do Topo sub. Okay, so now we're back to our regular mesh here, and it's been rotated and stuff. So we're in good shape. Yeah, actually, yeah, you can go. I mean, you can message me anywhere on my Discord channel here. You can put it into the art feedback and stuff. Yeah, Nightbox probably not gonna let you. I didn't even think about that. Awesome, cool side effects. Thanks for showing up. I'm glad the stuff's useful. Thank you, Justine, for showing up. And I'm glad the videos are helping out. And ZBrush is a big thing to kind of tackle, so stick with it. Go through the Intro to ZBrush Part 1, can kind of get you caught up and stuff too. Awesome. Well, that's great. And really, you're doing the hard work. Like me going through techniques is just like, oh, read the help doc and do the techniques. But, you actually learning it is the hard part. What page am I looking at? I'm not sure. I'm going way back through, so I'm not sure what page I was. About UVing the bike chain instead of UVing one piece of mine, duplicate it. UVing a piece that is repeating itself. That one I'm not sure. I know. Go to Pixelogic's videos and go to the Ask ZBrush section. Joseph Drust, or Google it. He might have covered it. I know he did cover like insert mesh brushes with poly paint and UVs and how to maintain them. I have notes on it. I don't do it that often, so I'd have to go look them up. But he's done that, but I don't know about the UVs with a repeating mesh. And you can use this method to pose a character for sure. Cool. Alrighty. Okay. Moving right along, so we all know this stuff. Very cool. I think we're about ready to wrap up. I'm excited. So, insert mesh brushes. You guys know this. Insert mesh brushes on curves have been around for a while. Let me see if I have demo files back. Shoulder kit is the best communicator. Summit characters. Summit. Oops. Drone mech. Cartridge console. Essentially, you guys. I mean, here I can just do this. What am I thinking? What am I even thinking? Boy, my ZBrush is getting busy. Doesn't matter. Grab something out. Make Polymesh 3D. Brush. Insert. Army curve. M. Bullets. There's some bullets. Now, on the drone, I had to do something very specific, which was the bullets need to go from this, let's call it horizontal to a rotated horizontal position, so 1 to 1, in order to control that curve. And you can go in here and hold down Control and kind of try and twist it. But just remember, you don't have to use a cylinder. You can use, again, just grab anything, doesn't matter. Edit, make Polymesh 3D. Go down here to initialize Q-Cube. And then if we just make this into something more representative of what our bolt shape's going to look like, we can scale this out. We can go through here, we can do Insert, Single Edge Loop. And then we're going to go to Insert Multiple Edge Loops. And then you can use bend arc if you wanted to, and you can kind of, if it is going to be a perfect arc, man, you're in good luck. If it's going to be a little bit more complicated than that, of course, you can go into bend curve, set your axis, and you can do more or less dots. You don't have to do that many. You can just do simple dots. And you go, I want to go from this to say this, and along the way, I want it to curve exactly one time. In fact, if you do want it to curve exactly one time, let's just do this. Let's do resolution of this. So we can go in here and we can say twist, start twisting here, and then continue twisting all the way. So it's going to go from this flat to this flat, and it's going to curve exactly once. Now, of course, put more resolution in there if you need it, or like I mentioned, it might even be easier. Let's go here, let's delete that one. Like I mentioned before, going in here to like a bend arc, and then doing that, and then doing a twist deformer. So let's do this. Let's do a twist first. We'll do a twist deformer, and we'll say I want to twist you exactly 90 degrees. And now I want to do a bend arc, like so. And now I know it's going to go from here to here. So now let's do a group by normals. I'm going to grab this piece right here, delete hidden. I'm going to say polygroup U and U, and then we're going to do our usual stroke, frame mesh, BI brush insert, army curve, bullets. And then now the bullets are going to go from this direction to that direction very precisely. Same thing for the hair. So the hair, doing kind of an imposter style of hair. That was just, if we go into our comma key here, and I'm just going to do like I did the summit, since I did cover this one. Let's go to project. Ooh, so if we do a project, it's going to kill everything we have in here. I think we're okay. Let's do demo anime head. I'll clear out some garbage. Okay, so my ZBrush was getting a little bit heavy. We'll launch that back up. How can you load workspaces inside of ZBrush? Oh, yeah, you can do that. It's been a while since I've done that. And as ZBrush might have a better, yeah, let's load this up. Might have a better answer, but up here, you can, can you even see that? I might have this, just above, just above the tool menu here, there's these things you can load next and previous user interfaces and interface layouts here. So you can use that. I'm not an expert at that though, so there might be better online resources for that kind of stuff. So anyway, we have a head here. If we want to block out a hair, one thing I'll do is I'll duplicate something off, and then I'll do an inflate of -1, and then I'll go into like my clay buildup or my clay tubes, turn off Hex Symmetry. We'll go through here and we'll kind of block in the hair flow and how much I want it to be out or in, or however I want to do that. So then when I have this, I can go through here. Let's do a quick Polymesh 3D, initialize Q-Cube. We're going to chop off the top here, and we're going to chop off the bottom here. Now this one doesn't have to be a tripart brush, but if you wanted to, I suppose you could just do this. So it is a tripart brush, but what we're actually going to do is do a group by normals. So it's a different normal on either side. And then if you want, you can go brush, create insert mesh new, and then we can rotate this, 45 degrees, and then hit B, not hit brush, hit B, create insert mesh append. Okay, And then now you have two different versions. So for both of these, if you turn on stroke curve mode, I believe it'll do it for both. The modifiers won't, so you'll have to go to like weld point, stretch, curve res, and then on this one, weld point, stretch, curve res. And now you have one that is angled, and then one's angled, one that's flat. You can also, underneath your stroke here, and you can go to your curve functions and curve modifiers. You can turn on curve fall offs if you want to go from like small to large to smaller. Now you can have a little bit of fall off there. So going back to our head, you can say, okay, I want my hair to follow this. So you can just drag a hair out here. Your brush size can dictate the size, also the depth. Remember is how far embedded it goes, and you can save these settings out as well. If you want to save this brush, just go to brush. You can hold down Alt and select icon if you want to select whatever's on your screen, and then brush save as. If you go to ZBrush 2018, ZBrushes, that'll end up in your light box. If you go to Z Startup, brush presets, that'll load up every time you start up ZBrush. And of course, if you go into Z Data, brush presets, these are the default brushes that come in with ZBrush, so don't save over those, but just FYI. Now at this point, you can go into stroke here, and you can say, you can see there's a snapshot function here. So if you turn off bend and snap, that allows the curve to bend and also snap to the surface. And then you do a snapshot, which is 5. You can hit 5, and then you can just move this back. And you can, and then you can turn bend and snap back on, and then you can like move this around however you'd like. And then you can hit 5, and then you can drag out a copy or move this copy. Alternatively, if you don't like dealing with curves, you can tap off. It's still masked, so you can go through here and you can move this thing around. Oh, and you can also twist. I'll get to that in a second. If you want a helix. Now this one, you can hold down Control and just drag off a copy, and then do whatever you want to with this thing. But if you do go back into your brush here that we're using, and we go through and we do this, remember you can now go through here with Control, and you can, oops, let's make our brush size smaller, sorry. Hold down Control, and you can start, ooh boy, twisting a little bit here to kind of twist along that angle. You could also alternatively, just like we were doing with the curves, you can drag out this thing and you can use bend curve to kind of bend it around however you'd like. So however you want to do your hair, this would be a way to start it. So we can isolate that. We can go ahead and split hidden. So we have our hair here, and looks like we lost our hair. Let's just do a group by normals. So at this point, what we can now do is if we go over here to frame our polygroups here, and then we just run one of our hair cards down it, we now have extra hair cards off of this thing. You can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, you can make their depth change. You can tap off, you can go ahead and split mask points, and even here we can do another group by normals. So we're just adding complexity to our pre-existing hair. So here is where you can go into geometry, modify topology. You can do unweld groups border, and then you can go into your deformations, and you can deflate these to give you those imposter crossovers. Same thing for this original one here. Unweld groups border, and then deflate. And at any point, you can go through here. You can go with your move brush and move them all around. You can merge these two down if you want. You can go through here with your topology brush, move topological, or go in here to your auto masking and turn on topological, and you can just move one by one, or you can go mask by polygroups and just move the polygroup, first polygroup that you touch. You can also hit W and then Control tap one, and you can rotate these and use these to do like masking, quick masking for flyaways and stuff like that. Now UVing these, I use a script at work that goes root to tip. With the new UV tools coming down in ZBrush, you may be able to do root to tip UVs a little bit easier, but I'm not sure. Cool, cool, cool. Just getting caught up here a little bit. You don't need to do clean topology for 3D printing. It's more about the forms and the resolution that you need to print. It might be easier to make clean shapes with it though. Would you prepare your low poly bullet so you can then use that whole strap in production? Yes, yeah, and that would, and essentially, and this is what I did, was I went through the bullet and I just transferred UVs to make sure that all those UVs were stacked. Ooh, 2 a.m. in New Zealand. Yes, it will. So if you go to my YouTube channel, thanks for showing up though. 2 a.m. I appreciate it. Go to my videos section, and I haven't organized these yet, but right here. So here's Pavlovich live stream 2 days ago, yesterday's, and then today's is all being thrown up on YouTube right now. And then I'm going to go through these, edit them down, put them in a nice playlist for you guys. It's a little bit more searchable and easier to reference later on. If you're just starting out, would you recommend starting to learn how to build base meshes, use existing ones? So in my Cobra 1977, you're you Steve Kelly? Um, if I'm just starting out, you can do both. What I do in my CGMA class, I can show you the videos for that. So here's all my CGMA class videos. These first 53, I'm going to put it for free on YouTube when I finish the thumbnails. These ones here, we start out with insert mesh brushes and base mesh creation. So we do both, and then that just allows you to kind of free up and kind of design in different ways. But if you're in production, base meshes are the way to go. Like start with something that exists and build off of it. Saves you a lot of time. You make text that wraps around a circle in ZBrush. Yes, you can. So for example, edit, Z plugin. Text. What are we doing? Text. So we can say new text and say new text. Now, when you're wrapping something, I would say turn adaptive off so you get nice even geometry. And then when you go to subtool, we can turn this one off. So now wrapping, you can use your deformer like we were talking earlier, like bend arc. You can go through here and you can like bend it in a circle, in a complete circle or like a half circle, or you can kind of match whatever your thing is. Now, if you wanted it to follow a spline path, you would have to essentially go to auto groups and then do a group split and then make sure it's in the right order and then make sure their bounding boxes are all the same. So you might have to go through, actually before you did this, I would say make a perfect bounding box for every single piece of text because your bounding box is going to make the letters bigger or smaller. It's a whole thing. So, and then you could frame a mesh like this. If you went through the trouble of doing that, you could take a sphere here and then make Polymesh 3D, and then you could either do a slice circle, square center, or you could do like a slice curve, and then, you know, frame any of these ones to get a perfect circle, and then just frame your text on there. It's kind of a, I don't know, there might be a more elegant solution than those, but how do you delete the data that keeps adding up in ZBrush? So yeah, while we were working, we can just click on these things, go to Subtool, and delete all, and then delete all, and then we're kind of clearing this stuff out. We can delete that. Now, when you go to save and you have a bunch of crap over here and you do a file save, that's a Z project and that's going to save all your crap. I prefer to do a tool save as, and that's just going to save your selected tool. Cool. And yeah, if twist strength is based on brush intensity, that would be good because boy, it was intense when I was twisting it there. What angle of view are you using for perspective? I think that right now just the default. So whatever, the 50, I think. Oh, and the new ZBrush that they showed it on Friday at the ZBrush Summit, there is more camera controls there. Huh. So I need to put creative back in my stream. Let's do that real quick. Do I not have that up? Hold on. Wait for it. Let's see, drafts, stream. Oh, I don't even have my title. I haven't even checked my title in a long time, and it's not even on here. Stream. Okay, let's do this. Pixelogic streaming. So title, let's do this. Oh yeah, so even in my ZBrush one, it just has ArtStation and ZBrush Live. It doesn't have creative. So I probably need to change that, right? ArtStation Creative. Something like that, maybe. Yeah, I'm not even sure if they have a creative category anymore. Polygroup color. If you make it a polymesh 3D, and let's say you have, oops, a polygroup here. If you want to change this to the color of the polygroup, you can isolate it and hit Control W, and it'll cycle through. Or I suppose you could hover over a face and do polygroup, polygroup all, and then just tap Alt. You can cycle through that way. Oh, there is no more creative. Okay, well, let me put that back down to just ArtStation, I suppose. And no longer promote streams. Well, thanks a lot, ArtStation. I don't know what to title my stuff. All right. Well, you guys let me know what I should name my thing. I don't want to limit it. But I also don't want to alienate it. Oh, so here's this thing too. So if we go in here to, this wasn't something I wasn't able to do on ZBrush Summit. So we're going to go to Brushes. If you go to the Insert Multi-Mesh repository, I like this braid. So let's do that. If you Google Insert Multi-Mesh repository here, ZBrush Central, there's a lot of cool ones you can download, or you can just make your own, but check through there. And for example, if you wanted to do braids, I don't want to have to like groom braids into this, right? So what I'm going to do is split mask points. I'm going to do a zero mesher, that size down to 0, same, and that'll just go through and zero mesh these. So now I can take these root to tip into a program like CG or GeoMaya Hair 2, and then that allows you to do is you can pass splines down those shapes, so you can actually go through and braid splines, or you can even pass hair cards down those shapes, or both. You can pass more hair cards, turn those into splines, have more complex splines, and then all that good stuff. So that's how I would do that. These ones we can check out. So for example, that light that was in front of that drone, that was essentially something like this. So we'll go to initialize Q cube. Let's do resolution of 1, and then W. So it's something like this, and then I want nice even divisions. So we're going to go through here, and we're going to say insert multiple edge loops, and we're going to divide this up so it's nice and cubed. And then here, you can do a group by normals. Do they need to see me? You can leave that open if you want, if you're, yeah. They haven't. Is she going to be grumbly? Come here, little baby. Oh, you are a big fat turd. This is Whiskey. She's the new girl of the house. Whiskey's the old biddy. You see everybody? You say hi. She's a good girl. Oh, and boy, is she heavy. So we have this right here, so we can hover over a face, and under the polygroup options, there are stuff like checker. So you can polygroup all, and you can turn it into a checkerboard. So now you can go through here, and you can like inset polygroup all region, or not region. You want to do inset each poly. So you can go through here, and you can inset these, and then on the back here, you can do the same. Although what I'd probably do is just isolate these pieces here, delete hidden. Let's do this. Let's do Q mesh, all polygons. Pull this back, flip. If you want to poke a hole through, Q mesh, polygroup all, pull it through, and then dynamic. And then now you've got that kind of look. But if we scroll all the way back through, that wasn't necessarily how I did the lights. Those are actually easier. So if we do a group by normals, again, we can just pop this one eye, delete hidden. This one we'll do inset polygroup all, not a region, because a region is going to give you the region. I'm going to do inset each here. And then now you could do maybe a delete polygroup all, and then you could do like a Q mesh polygroup all, like so. And that'll give you that grid pattern. And then over here, if you want a little extra, let's do a quick, let's just, I'm going to isolate. Here's what I'm going to do. Control Shift. I'm going to get rid of all this. And then with these showing, I'm going to do a group by normals. And then can I do a mirror and weld? I don't know if I, yeah. So now what I can do is I can give this a little padding. I can Q-mesh polygroup all, like say just on this side, on the both sides here, or I can do it on both sides here. And then if I want to bridge these two to make a little rounded corner, I could say bridge, connected polys. Let's do a circle. Let's do 25, I think. Resolution is what it is. And then triangle sides. Let's see if that works. Yeah, there we go. Resolution is a little much, so let's say 4. There we go. You can round those corners out. And then also through here, you can either Q-mesh, single poly here. You can like Q-mesh out some things to put some screws through. Oh, by the way, you know, Q-mesh out a distance and then just tap to get that one. You can also pull through if you don't like it. So you can go through and get rid of any that you don't like. So that'll be the grid little pattern set up there. This one, you guys might like this one. So if I load up, let's say load, streaming, summit, demos, nope, mech, cartridge, and console. This was a fun one. So back through here, this was just all Zmodeler, and it's fairly simple to put forward. I mean, these aren't real complex shapes. The cartridge itself is also fairly simple, but if I go into polyframe mode here, let's go ahead and do a merge visible. This is just basic Zmodeler stuff. So instead of figuring out how to resolve all this, I just went through an array mesh, put those in, and then just basic Zmodeler shapes for these shapes. And then I did, again, instead of trying to resolve cutting this out and then putting a little sticker in there and cutting this out and making it resolve correctly, I just quickly went through and just divided these things up, array mesh those out. And then now I have a little separate sticker piece in here that has a little extra material ID. So if I turn on my material IDs, it'll be nice and clean. And then on the drone itself, I'll go ahead and load that up. Start groups, UMesh might be better. Yeah, let's load up the UMesh version. And we'll turn off live Boolean so we don't have to deal with that. If we go to the back here, where that kind of plugs in, here it is. So back in here, let's hit F to frame. You can see inside here we've got the cartridge. This is a little proxy just kind of stuffed in there. But these chords in here were done the exact same way. You know, these little chords that kind of spread out. And the only reason, wouldn't normally spend this much time, but since we had the camera right here, I went ahead and put in these little things here and little chords that go and stick back into the little thing in here. So if we turn off this cartridge, you can see that actually goes in and go right in there, and then little buttons work and stuff like that. Change stream category to art. Is it consensus art? All right, let's do it. Let's go back to my here. So not art station, just art is what you guys are saying? Or art station and hashtag art. She is. Your front view, yeah, you can ask me. I think I'm wrapping up today. I think in fact, let's see how, yeah, you know what? Ooh, the calisthenics video, going to Croatia and Bosnia-Herzegovina and Montenegro. Very, very fun. So these guys right here did the heavy lifting, and again, this was just on their part-time during lunch. After work, just pulling this thing together, making it look cool. Here's an overall shot. We got more characters in there. We got some creatures. We got the ship in the background. Here's a little ship interior. So keep your eyes peeled. The people who worked on this is on their art station are going to be updating that. You can follow me, and I'll point you guys to their stuff as well. But I think we're good. I think we're good to go. Mohammed asks, how do I develop myself and grow up? My creativity, exercises to do, or what should I do? Oh, you know what? I wish I had a better answer for you off the top of my head, but what I do have on my ArtStation page it may or may not be worthwhile to you, I'll link you guys to this. I do talk a bit about, oh, let me sign back in. So go to my profile, go to my, so that I just sent you a link to their blogs. If I go to my profile and I go to my blog, this will, here, you can scroll down. I do talk about, do I need a college degree, which I don't really answer. Motivation and inspiration, I talk about. And 2D versus 3D concept and art production pipelines. And how to break into the games industry. So a lot of these do talk about some of that, what you're talking about there. So how to select faces and extrude. That one is just, take a cylinder, make polymesh 3D. There's a lot of different ways you do that. You can hold down, I like to hold down Alt and just paint, and then I can just like extrude polygroup all. You can also go through here and you can polygroup and you can poly paint. As you're poly painting, you can tap Alt and you can poly paint with a different polygroup. You can also inherit this, so I can start poly painting on this, tap Shift, and then you can poly paint with that polygroup. You can hold down Alt and start poly painting, tap Shift, and poly paint with this polygroup, and then you can extrude this. So now you can also, I like to do poly painting, and then I like to hover over this and maybe do a mask polygroup all. You can mask all those polygroups here, and then you can just mask them like so. You can also just mask any of these. You can hover over a face, you can like mask polygroup all, or you can mask a single poly. So you can like mask, 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 invert that mask, and then mask like so. A lot of different ways. Cool. Alrighty, I'm gonna wrap it up. So this is the ZBrush Summit Deep Dive. Thanks everybody. Like I said, moving forward, I'm gonna go through this weekend and edit it down. I hope to have it out by Monday. Post it on my ArtStation, on my usual channels, and then you guys can, it'll be easier to search, it'll be more broken down and titled and thumbnailed and all that good stuff. So, and then I'll get you those 53 ZBrush start videos, and we'll be in good shape. Cool. Thank you very much, everybody. And essentially, long story short, for today, Archie, we were making something like this guy and some other stuff from my ZBrush Summit video. By the way, if you wanted to watch that ZBrush Summit video, maybe it's worth it for you. And you know what? Right before I sign off, well, here's what we'll do. Go to, I'll show you. So Pixelogic ZBrush. And then if you go to Pixelogic's website, here's using ZBrush to facilitate smarter production with certain affinity. This was my video, so you can watch that. And then also, if you guys want, just for the last minute, I'm going to turn my voice off, and we can do, let me do the recorder. Oops. Well, watch this. All that stuff we've been making will look something like this when it's done. So I'll just play this. I'll turn my sound off. Actually, it's going to be my microphone, so let me see if I can go to my, oh, I can't change my settings. Desktop audio. Let's see if this plays.